Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm your host, Sareth Ney, and every episode of Stand Up Speakeasy, I bring comics on that deserve their flowers and get the light shined on them. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Scott Whatley from Jacksonville Beach. How are you, pal?
Good man. How you doing?
Great,
Good to be
thank you.
here.
Awesome. Thanks for being my guest this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not normally a morning person, but I'm like, you know what? For Scott, I'm going to wake up this early.
That's, what's funny is I've been up pacing around the house waiting on this. I get up. Well, I get up around 7:38 every day. My wife gets up at 7, lets
Awesome.
the dog out, feeds the dog. She gets coffee going. Uh, you want to know what love looks like? Here's what love looks like. So my wife will get up before me. She lets the dog out, feeds the dog, gets coffee going. She'll pour me a cup, and when it's the temperature she knows that I like, she comes and wakes me up. How about that?
Dang, that is love.
I
That
know,
is.
man. Sometimes she's tripping though. Sometimes she be forgetting. I'm just
Oh, jeez. Good
kidding.
stuff. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. I love your hat, dude.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, free man. This is part of
Hey,
the Lions Not Sheep brand. Are you familiar with them? Lions Not Sheep.
not at all.
Oh,
But
it's just
I'm.
a bunch of toxic masculinity. That's all it is.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I get asked about it all the time because I wear this stuff a lot. But it's just kind of like be a leader, be a man, step up, do the hard things, make the hard decisions type of clothing brand. And they're not toxic masculinity. I was joking about it. It's actually the opposite. They um, as a brand they celebrate uh, the masculine leader, but with that comes restraint and submission. And you have to be, like I always say, like you should be able to kill a deer in the morning and write a poem about it and in night, and that's well rounded.
oh
That's kind
yeah.
of what the brand promotes. But yeah, free man. Like
Good stuff.
yeah, man.
Gosh, it sounds like me. Like I'm like a. You know how like the leader of the wolf pack is like in the back,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go in order like oldest and like the so forth. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I am. I think I'm just like I'm a lone wolf, but if I need to be, I'll be like the leader of the pack, then walking from the back or something.
Yeah, sometimes, and that's, I mean, not to go down a whole leadership tangent, but that's what real leadership actually looks like is leading from the back and making sure that everybody around you has what they need to succeed and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's been misconstrued a lot by some inappropriate leaders that have taken charge and ruled with an iron fist and all that kind of stuff. But true leadership really does pave a way for everybody to do what they need to do well, and you cheer them on and you help them support and all that kind of stuff. There's a group called Go Ruck, and it's they take civilians through like military style training. It's basically just like brutal punishment all night long. It's like they do like 10 hour or like sorry 8 hour, 10 hour or 12 hour and 24 hour events. You got to put all this weight on your back, and you're going through like basically like Navy SEAL style
Cool.
uh, stuff. And I've done a couple of those events, and what you learn in those is that you have to lead by serving. You have to make sure that everybody, because you'll have 30 or 40 people with this crazy objective going through the entire night with all these heavy weights, and like they're making you get in the ocean and get all sandy, and like you're just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you don't make it through it unless you support one another and serve one another all the way through the entire night. And that's what good leadership looks like. So anyway,
Oh,
here's the toxic masculinity.
here's I, I'll toast. Give you a thumbs up.
Cheers.
Awesome. So what's and your old your hoodie? What's that say?
Old Salt. Well, everything's backwards. That's actually my wife's clothing brand.
Oh,
She has um, she has two apparel companies. One is called the Admiral's Daughters, and the other is called Old Salt. Old Salt is the men's brand, and she could. It's funny because the Admiral's Daughters is a little bit more. Obviously, it's geared towards women, but it has a little bit of a like Americana, like I don't know, I want to say good girl, but it's just like it's a very feminine, approachable brand. And then with Old Salt, she can kind of cater to the old scallywags and sea captains and be a little rougher with it and have a little more fun and stuff. So yeah, that's two of her businesses.
wow. If that ain't love, I don't know what is. Walking.
Yeah, it's cool. Like it's the 3 stars. Her dad is a retired 3 star admiral in the Navy, and so that's where the women's brand, the Admiral's Daughters, that's where it gets its name. She is an admiral's daughter, and Old Salt is the oldest active duty member of the Naval Academy class is awarded the title of Old Salt. And so that was her dad. He had one of the longest careers of anybody in his naval, and in fact, the longest in his Naval Academy graduating class. He when he retired, he was actually the Navy comptroller, so he's in charge of the budget for the entire Navy. And when it was time for him to retire, there was nobody else that was prepared to step into that role. So he actually stayed on an extra year beyond what what you're supposed to in a full career in the Navy. So he had an extra year, and while they prepared somebody else for his role as he stepped out, so he got the Old Salt. So anyway, she named it after him, and 3 stars are for his rank when he retired and all that. So
Wow.
pretty incredible. Actually, matter of fact, dude, look at this. This is the Constitution, this mug right here. I promise I did not put these on as props to talk about. It just happens to be. But the Constitution is the oldest active Navy ship. It's actually wooden, and it was the way that ship was built. It was actually imploding on itself because all the structural beams and everything, the tension between cables that were holding it all. The way it was designed, 100 years ago or whatever, that was perfect. But over the time, it started to collapse in on itself. And her dad, when he was in charge of the budget and doing all that kind of different stuff, a guy came to him and said, "Hey, this ship is collapsing. I think with the right amount of money, we could restore this, and it could become a part of our recruiting and stuff like that." It's still in the harbor in Boston, but he did. He, with a stroke of a pen, he signed off on the rebuilding of that ship, and now it's still there, and people can tour it. You can. It's becoming a staple in the Boston Harbor. In fact, when he retired, they sail it twice a year. They sail out, they turn around and sail back so that it ages the same on both sides. Because if it's just parked one way, the sun hits it the same way all the time, and one side of the ship will age differently than the other side. So anyway, when they sailed it out, he did his retirement on the ship and stuff. So, bunch of cool Navy stuff if you're into that sort of thing.
Indeed. There's a pipe on the like cigar pipe that's underneath Old Salt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, I just thought pipes were cool. So when she was designing all the branding, we were talking about that. I was like, what if it's an old sailor's pipe like this? Yeah, I can't take credit for the brand, but I did suggest that.
Heck yeah, dude. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, well, it's cool because we both have. Did you just look back at me to fact check that? He was asking about the pipe on the logo. I said I can't take credit for it, but I did suggest a pipe. So I have a background in apparel design. When I was young, I had a clothing line and merch company and stuff like that. So I used to design and print merch for bands, and I had my own private labels. So when Lindsay and I met, we had a lot to talk about, a lot in common, and we haven't done it in a while. We used to have date nights where we would just like spread out like a big piece of butcher's paper on the floor and get a glass of wine and a beer, and we just sketch out ideas and how about this and how about that, and come up with some new graphic tees and all that kind of stuff. So it's neat to have a wife that's in the creative field as well, because you get, we'll be driving down the road shitting on people's logos, like, look at that, look at the kerning on that logo, it's bullshit, like who designed that?
Awesome. That's so cool that you designed band merch, and now you got your wife has the 2 clothing lines and all that stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
and you working in apparel. It's like, man, that's like, have you like screen printed and all that stuff, and like
Yeah.
all that stuff?
Yeah, I had a screen printing business for probably 10 or 12 years, and I ran a small merch business out of my 2-car garage. Really, I converted a 2-car garage to a print shop, and man, we were printing a lot of shirts manually, just out there doing this. And I had a whole bunch of like high school kids working for me and stuff like that to print, because we would run the press almost 24/7, because we were producing beyond the capabilities what that shop should have been able to do, but because we just had multiple people in there working all the time, a lot of merch coming out of there. But I had sold that business years ago. But when my wife and I first started dating, and I knew that she was doing apparel, there was a expo coming up, and she was having a hard time getting the samples and stuff made, because when you go do a show, you just bring a couple pieces of each, like a small, a medium, or whatever, so that buyers can take a look at your artwork and decide how many they want to order. But most print shops, they want to do minimums of like 24, 46, things like that. And so I was like, man, give me a small budget. I'll go buy some printing equipment and I'll teach you how to print. So we ended up getting a hold of a small press and threw it in this garage over here at our house and started printing shirts so she could get it done for the samples. And then of course we've upgraded the equipment over the last couple of years. But it's funny, I was like out there printing, like, man, I swore I'd never do this again. And here I am pulling a squeegee, like, damn. But it's pretty fun. And she gets to dream up of an idea in the morning and you can be wearing it around that evening, you know. It's fun.
Indeed, there was a class in high school that taught that, and I'm like, I should pay more attention to that instead of like messing around with my friends. It was like a
Hmm.
EZA class, and I'm like, and now that that I have the festivals, like I got to pay my
Hmm.
buddy to you know print the shirts, and he does
Yeah.
everything screen printed with like the tote bags and stuff.
Who designs your stuff? It looks real comic booky. It looks like an old, like a Ninja Turtles comic book or something, you know, or like an old Spider-Man comic.
It's
Are you drawing that?
Oh no, I wish. It's my buddy Charlie McMullen. He's
Hmm.
based out of Colorado Springs,
Okay.
and communicate back and forth, and it's a whole storyline.
Hmm.
Because it's like I know I look like a Ninja Turtle, so that's why you can't. But it's like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas meets
Hmm.
Hellraiser,
Okay.
because it's Hunter S. Thompson's like a huge inspiration because I'm a journalist, and so that's
Hmm.
my inspiration. And then Clive made Hellraiser, and I was his apprentice out in L.A.
Hmm.
So I married the two,
Yeah.
and
So
so
tell me more about the journalism. So you're an independent journalist or you work for a,
pretty
how
much,
does
yeah,
that work?
man. Well, I used to be a concert journalist, so I would get paid to go to concerts. And then I
Hmm.
majored in journalism too. So it was like, my teacher threw me my first concert, which was 303, like a group out of,
Hmm.
them guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were at my hometown performing, and she goes, "You want to interview him?" I'm like, "Sure, that'd be awesome." And like, "Do you want to do the concert review for him, and someone else will take the photos?" I'm like, "Sure." And
Yeah.
then I moved out to LA, and then I was Clive's apprentice, and then I
Say
became a
Clive's apprentice.
yep, Clive Barker's.
Okay.
He's for like Hellraiser, Candyman stuff,
Hmm.
and he and then I needed something to do at nighttime, so I got a job as a concert journalist, and they paid like $80 a year, and it was a horrible pay, but it was like all the free concerts I
80,
wanted.
80 whole dollars a year.
Yeah.
What did you do? You must have went out and bought some crazy shit.
Oh yeah. Like, well, I had like four jobs out in LA, so I
Yeah.
was like,
I'm just teasing.
then but I would just like write a I would put like a request credentials.
Hmm.
I had the LA Weekly, and I circled all the shows that I wanted to cover,
Hmm.
and they go, yeah, sure, like here's the concert, cover
Hmm.
our clients, and
Yeah.
it just kept on growing and growing and growing, and like I found out like Cypress Hills people was representing by Alice in Chains people, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
this is nuts. Like I just kept
Yeah.
on getting all these free shows, so
That's killer.
yeah.
How long did you do that for?
3 years in LA, and I did like 150 concerts back to
Wow.
back. Yeah,
Did
living
you
on.
ever did you ever go on the road with them like that movie? What was the movie with the kid that was writing for what's the band?
What is that?
Oh
I was
shit.
get almost famous a lot. So,
Yeah, Almost Famous is
yeah.
what's the one? It's like Seth Rogen, I think, isn't it? He's writing and he's going on the road with some band and
Mm.
they're like B level, but then they finally get the cover of Rolling Stone afterwards. It's all based on a real guy.
Oh yeah, yep. It was a lot like that one. But instead of like following one band, it was just like all my favorite bands. So,
Hell yeah.
it was
That's
nice.
cool.
But I wish I did. But like I used to manage a band too, and we went on tour to the West Coast, and they're like, "Well, we only got one gig, so we'll just busk on the streets." So
So,
we bust on like Hollywood Boulevard and like the Las Vegas Strip. But then our only gig was Republic of Pie in North Hollywood, and they just paid us in pies. And I was like,
so would you say as a manager you were winning or not winning?
I was a horrible tour manager, so I was not winning on that part. But like
Mhm.
locally, like and in statewide, I made them like $1,500 in 22 gigs. So I was
In
winning in that
22
department.
gigs,
22, yeah,
$1,500 in 22 gigs.
yep.
Let's see here. I'm not quick on the math here.
Me neither. But they
1,500 divided by 22. That's great, man. It's almost $70 a gig. That's killing it. That's killing it, dude. In today's economy, that's It's a third of a tank of gas, man. That's almost getting them to the next show.
Indeed. And so, like, and it's
What
like
year
the
was it?
show,
Was this 1946 when you could get like a newspaper, a soda pop, and a pizza for a buck 50?
something like that. No, it was like 2014.
These guys that can't afford new strings, they're like, I don't know, sir.
No,
You're getting us
I
booked a lot, but
indeed. I was like, no wonder you guys just paid me $15 out of the
and you
ten
were still
percent I
taking
was
a
paying.
cut. You were still taking a cut of it.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
It's like it's supposed to be 150, but they gave me 15. I was like, all right, I'll settle for 15. But
All right. Okay. So, all right. So maybe more successful as a journalist than a band manager. That's good. Okay.
I'd say, but yeah, like they were used to playing for nothing or like bar tabs and like food. And I'm like,
Hmm.
well, this is a step up. We made some money for you. So
Yeah. Those guys are rich. They're feeling it.
yep. And then they switched managers and it's like when I don't do contracts. I'm like, you know what? If you guys want to leave, leave. And
Hmm.
then they broke up shortly after. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right.
What was this
So,
band called? You gonna put them on Front Street?
yeah, sure, why not? They're no longer together. They're called the Widowhood Effect. So
The Widowhood Effect.
yep.
Okay.
And
What kind of music is this? It sounds pretty hardcore.
it sounds hardcore, but it's not. It's Mumford and Sons meets Alice in Chains.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So you got Irish folk, Irish Alice in Chains. This is interesting. Okay.
yeah.
I like it.
So I recommend them. I made a playlist on YouTube. Like I did most of the bookings on this. It's
Mhm.
like even though it was $70.
I did most of the bookings. We got bar mitzvahs, we got birthday parties, we got
Yeah,
bowling alleys.
indeed.
So how'd you go from independent journalism, booking bands to stand-up comedian? I know that your show, you're supposed to be interviewing me a little bit, but I want to know about this.
Oh, for sure. Like after like I would come back to the studio to like Clive's place and like tell him all these funny stories because I'd run errands for him, right? And he goes, maybe horror is not for you. Maybe stand up is, and then
Hmm.
maybe you should try stand up instead. And I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, and I promised him I would do it, and then I did it at a coffee shop at Studio City's Jump Cut Cafe before I left LA. And then I got addicted to it, and I'm like, all right, there's only one mic in my town, so I'm just gonna do that. I didn't want to travel to auto experience because 45-minute drive was too much for me back in the time.
Yeah.
So used to being everything concentrated in LA, you know.
Hmm.
And then like I said, hey, I'm moving to Florida. I just need three comics, three bands because I want to marry my two loves. And then all
Hmm.
from the concerts in Clive and stuff. And they're like, I tagged one member of each band, and they said we all went in on this. So I'm like, oh crap. So like my festival was born out of like the blue, you know.
Wow, that's crazy. So
Yeah,
you had three comics, three bands, and you start Sareth Fest.
yep. And I didn't know what to name it, and they're like, "We'll call it Sareth Fest." And so they all went in on it. It turned into like a 3-night event or a 3-day
Hmm.
festival.
Hmm.
And then my first show happened like 4 months later. It was my roast.
Nice. They roasted you.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. They went for the jugular, and it's like they went for the kill. It was great. So,
How many years has Sareth Fest been going on?
10 years in Colorado and 3 years in Daytona.
Okay, so it started in Colorado.
Yep,
You said I'm moving to Florida. I need three bands, three comics. They go, cool. We got them. We're doing it in Colorado.
yep.
You're like, guys, this doesn't get me to Florida. It gets me
It does.
halfway.
Yeah.
So 10 years in Colorado. What's it look like there? Because I've been to the one in Daytona. Obviously, was that last year, the year before?
It just
Um,
Yeah, it was start off like really small, like in the downtown bar. It was a place. It didn't have a stage or nothing. It was like where my roast was,
mhm,
where the I discovered the band that I was a booker for, that I
mhm.
volunteered for, and that's why I didn't get paid so much because I just volunteered for it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they start and at another venue, 1925 or something like that, and then just went to dive bars, art galleries, and like my friend's basement one time, and like uh, now we're in a bomb shelter, so it's our permanent home. So
A bomb shelter.
yeah, it's so
A
cool.
comedy show in a bomb shelter. That's pretty ironic.
Yeah,
And
and
like, we
like
can bring you in here, but we can't shelter you from your own bomb.
exactly, and the comics on the first night bombed so hard.
They get a bomb in a bomb shelter. That's actually really funny.
It is. It's so like, and everyone like the next night got so scared that they didn't want to come to perform, and so I was like the only one that was on my storytelling show, my stand up show. So I gave him. I said, "Hey, DJ, play until like however long you want, and then I'll
Hmm.
do like 15 minutes of jokes and 5 minutes of storytelling."
Hmm.
And then it went pretty good, I'd say. But yeah, but
That
then
was
like,
10 years ago.
oh no, this one was July. So yeah,
Recent. I got you.
yeah,
How did you? Because we've talked about, so Alex, Mikey, and myself. We run River City Comedy, and we've been doing a bunch of shows, and they've been pretty successful. And we're kicking the idea around about doing a festival, this River City Comedy Festival.
well, that's pretty neat.
I actually, I probably shouldn't be talking about it on a podcast because it's still in such small infancy. But yeah, we're really toying with that because we've seen the success that Riot Comedy Fest has had in Houston, and Drew is a good friend of mine and runs that show, he runs the Riot with Brian Gendrick. We used to. Now Drew lives in New York, but they still work hand in hand, and Drew's doing Riot New York. But the festival's been very successful, and I think this year we're going to go out and even like we all submitted to it. But even if we don't get accepted, we're still going to go and just kind of take notes on how the festivals run, what their setups look like, what their process looks like for marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then because I'm a videographer and photographer, I'm going to bring my gear down there and just help Drew document the thing. And it'll be homework as well as experience. But anyway, we've been kicking the idea around because I think Jacksonville needs a festival.
Yeah.
And we do shows at Comedy Zone. We're doing shows at Blue Jay Listening Room. First of the year, we're going to start at First Coast Comedy, booking that room. So right now we have 3 monthly shows, and there's a fourth room that we can't talk about yet. That I think we've just been given. Pretty random. Just got the phone call one day, and they were like, "Hey, we see what you guys are doing in these other rooms. We'd like you to produce shows here." So we can't really release that yet, but knowing that we have all these different rooms throughout the city, and that we've been successful in selling out single nights, we're thinking about just over a weekend doing a fest and bringing in as many great comics as we can. But we want to make sure that we know what we're doing first. We don't want to do it haphazardly.
Yeah.
Because so far with River City, I mean, we've got a history of just selling shows out and putting on really good shows. I think local comedy gets a bad rap sometimes, because people are like, "Hey, you're my friend, I'll put you on a show." And it doesn't necessarily mean you're the funniest. It just means we're homies. And for us, like, our criteria is like, we could be brothers, but if you ain't funny enough, you're not getting on the stage.
Yeah.
So it's about putting the audience first. And because of that, I think we've had, success in the rooms that we're doing. So we want to carry that onto the festival stuff and see, but it's a lot more logistics.
Yeah.
As you know, you've been doing it for 10 years. So yeah.
Before it was just like my homies, and now it's just like, all right, if you book me, I'll put you on. But first, you gotta try it. Like they get like the fast pass because I'm like, I gotta give you back, pay you back for karma. Like
Yeah.
you give me a show, I'll give you a tenfold back.
Mhm.
With the fest, and I go all out, and then but like I usually travel, and because I'm lucky to live in where I live, so I can drive like an hour to Jacksonville, Daytona, Orlando, or whatever.
Mhm.
Like if I see and I have my ears to the streets, like if I see them like grinding and shining on stage and they're getting booked all over the place,
Mhm.
and I gotta go to them to go see them. Like, all right, they're pretty good, and
Mhm.
then even if they don't have rooms, I know that they're gonna evolve and be better, like in like 5 years or whatever. It's
Right.
just like I'm gonna catch them by the tail now, and then they can say, "Yeah, I did his festival." Like
Mhm.
it's like a low budget festival, but he made it work.
Yeah.
Like lanyards and
How does that work when you're setting up? Because when I went down there uh, to Sareth Fest, it was in what was it, like an Irish bar or something like
yep,
that?
the Tirnog, yeah,
Which one is that?
a Tirnog Irish pub.
Is that the Nog?
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
Nog.
that's the Nog that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have done. I just haven't done on the open mic. Okay, so what do you do? And was there other rooms as well?
Nope, just the Nog.
Everything happens there.
Yep.
And what do? You just do comedy for like several nights in a row, or how do you structure the whole festival? Because I just came in, did my set, and took off.
Oh, for sure. Like nowadays, like I do the Wednesday night mic to kick things off. So I'm
Okay.
like, all right, if you can handle the open mic, I'll put you on a future one if you're doing well, because the
Right.
Nog is a tough room. Like it's a
Hmm.
really tough room. And
Yeah.
so I got like 3 or 4 people out of it for the open mic portion
Hmm.
for next year. Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is I put comedians. They let me do like an early show and a late show, which is
Okay.
fantastic. Usually it's like a late show because they're like people don't come here till 10:45, but like for some strange reason they packed out like 8 o'clock show and well like
Hmm.
we started late on the Friday night because I don't know why it was like something was happening there. So I'm like, all right, we'll just and plus Facebook banned me for promoting because they thought it was spam. So I was like, oh hell.
Facebook. I got kicked completely off of Facebook for being too, well, white and male and straight. I guess that they don't like that. That's a bad one. You can't be white, straight, and male. That's 3 strikes, buddy. You are done.
Yeah, it's brutal.
People are like, you in Facebook jail? I'm like, no, I'm in Facebook. They offed me, bro. They fucking
Yep.
they killed me. They got me done. They can't come back.
I was wondering why you weren't on. There's some like but yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah, I did like 2 blocks of stand up and like I mixed in like roasting my short film again,
Hmm.
storytelling. I didn't put a podcast at the Nog, but I did a podcast at the went into the bomb shelter. But
Hmm.
and then I
Dude,
put like
bomb shelter is such a cool. I know it's actually in a bomb shelter, but what a cool name for a comedy club if you called it the Bomb Shelter.
indeed.
That's so funny, man. It'd be so funny to anyway. I start thinking about in terms of like what kind of show you could do in a place like that. You could do a show in a place called the Bomb Shelter, and then have comedians come up and do a set, and then for the bomb shelter segment, just hand them whack premises and just see what they can do with it and see if they bomb or not.
Oh yeah,
Like safe
it's
place, like call it a safe place to bomb.
awesome. Yeah,
Like that'd be fun, man. Bomb shelter, just do new material only or something like that. Like the bomb shelter, the safe place to bomb.
yeah,
Damn, that's good. All right, let's work on
yeah. So
that.
I did the real name is called CR23 Bomb Shelter because it's named after the owner Cody Roth, and
Hmm.
so he's a pretty cool dude. I think 23 is his favorite number or something. But
Hmm.
it used to be like a basement, but they demolished the house and they
Hmm.
just kept the basement and they just turned it into a bomb shelter. It's super
Super
dope.
cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
There's like it's like a ramp, like a dirt ramp that goes in there, so all the musicians can load in their gear. So
Hmm.
it's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then let's see, but yeah, like I do have a show called the High and Dry Comedy Show, which is like that, where like you draw 2 topics out, and
Hmm.
Setlist Stand Up Without a Net inspired me to do it, and like that Jeremy Watkins show inspired me,
Hmm.
um, and when Marcus Crespo and Christina Shriver did a Hot Topic, they
Hmm.
inspired me, and so um, my 2 topics that I always put in the bin is bag raccoons and cruise ships, because that was the
Bag of raccoons.
yep, and cruise ships. Yeah. 'Cause, like, it's in my homage to Marcus Crespo because like, that's what he put in, and,
Uh-huh.
I those topics, like, my very first time doing it, and I just made up an entire set on the spot. It was just, like,
Can you
magic,
imagine? You can imagine how raccoons are always getting into people's trash, but if you're on a cruise ship, what are they swimming up? Like
right?
raccoons with snorkels and fins, like following the ship, like yo, dog.
It'd
And
be
raccoons
interesting.
always wash their food in water too, so they're like, yo, dog, this food comes straight off into the water, son. You ain't never had none of this cruise ship, dank, dog. Just a pack of raccoons following a boat. That's actually a pretty funny premise right
Hell yeah. But,
there.
yeah, it's, like, my festival show. I got to bring it to, Orlando Fringe, and I got to bring it to, Orlando Comedy Festival.
Mm,
So I'm trying to get to Atlanta Comic Con and see if they can select me for that, and
that's
I'll do
cool.
that.
What do you
Yeah.
do for that? You submit just tapes and ticket sales and like past
Um
photography and stuff like that at your festivals, or to submit for that, or how's that work?
For Orlando Fringe, you just fill out an application. They said there's like a off-site from like they have like little tents out there, and so you
Mm,
can produce your own show. And then
okay.
they give you a stipend of $200 a show.
Okay.
And then like I took that money, I split it amongst all the comics and everything and all the performers. So
Hmm.
we all made like $40 that day.
Hmm.
And so like my storytelling show had like less than that, and so I gave everyone $50, and I'm like, because everyone deserves to get paid to tell jokes, like no matter what, like whether
Hmm.
it's food, drinks, cash, or merch. That's all I can give them.
Man, you need
And
to take that 200 and put it straight into advertising, and then charge 10 at the door and split the door with the comics. And that'll encourage them to bring people, so this place fills up, and they get bigger crowds, and you got money to market the whole thing. If I got
uh,
a $200 stipend, that would go straight to putting asses in the seats. And like, if you have $200 and it costs you, well, you make $10 a head and you put 100 people in there, that's $1,000. You just converted 200 into 1,000,
Damn.
right? You know, and then it's like now we're dividing 1,000, but we had a great audience. Our clips are better. We got paid better. Yeah, don't take your stipend and give it to the comics, man. Put it in the advertising.
Oh,
Build the
it,
room up.
now see, I'm glad you dropped that gem on me because I'm just like, here's $50. Cause like I don't know, like because us comics, we barely get paid for anything.
I know, because we don't think about it the right way. Like
Yeah, that's
you
true.
gotta get like, so myself, Mikey B, and Alex, we're comics, but we're professionals as well. You know, and I've spent my entire career in advertising and marketing. So when we get together and we look at doing a show, we're like, all right, how much? And when we've started like the Blue Jay show and stuff like that, we're like, all right, how much do we want to put in? Like rather than us get paid, how much can we afford to put in to marketing so that the show is successful and better comics want to do the show? Our ticket sales are faster. We've done this last show is our sixth show in a row and our sixth sellout in a row. And the room sells out with 70 people. And every single week or every single month we sell it out. And we've had to guest list. We have standing room only, like the place is packed. And so we worked it out with the venue to make a certain amount per show, but then we split door. And so all the comics get paid really well. You know, we had Joe Sensabella on the show last month, and when we paid him, he was like, "What?" He was blowing. You know, we pay the comics really well because we're making money in, straight up, and we actually, because the three of us, we all have independent income. We're not dependent on the show to survive. So we take what would have been our cut and we put it into a treasure chest. And so that treasure chest keeps growing, and we use it for marketing dollars to make sure the show gets better and better. And then also as it grows, eventually we'll be able to say, hey, we can afford a headliner and we're going to do a weekend, and ultimately the goal is to be able to get to where we can afford, a comic that we all would like to work with and pay that, like, hey, here's whatever your guarantee needs to be for the weekend. And then we get to work with them, and it'll help us network and help us do a great show and give us credits. And so we're looking long term, not necessarily what does it take so I can pay my electric bill this month, but what does it take so that we can become more successful as showrunners and more successful as comedians 5 years from now.
Indeed, it's all about longevity and building a legacy, and like at the same time trying to stay relevant. It's a really tough
Yeah,
game to juggle.
yeah, that is, and that's another thing. Like we talked about that a lot, starting it, because none of us, neither one of all the three of us, nobody wanted to shoulder the load of being a showrunner entirely. But if we all play to our strong suits, then nobody has to really do all the work. So Mikey B handles, I would say, 80-90% of the booking. Like we all look at the list that he puts together and we make suggestions. Hey, have you seen this guy? I saw him the other day. This person's killing it. Or hey, I don't think the energy works on this because it's too high energies and then a low energy. So we work together to make sure the lineups flow. But ultimately, Mikey does all the booking, and then I'm designing all the flyers and producing a lot of the advertising content. And then so we everybody kind of has their own role that we're filling, so that it's not like Alex is having to do booking and marketing and all that. We all kind of work on it together, and then we share the hosting responsibilities. So I think I'm hosting the next one. Mikey B hosted the last one. Alex hosted the one before that. So we kind of just rotate that around, and then we've done 6 of them, and we've each performed on it once. So we book ourselves last. Like this is a show that we want the show in general to be great. But I think we're adding these other rooms. We're going to have almost like, I think what we're going to start doing is booking a lineup and going, hey, this is our lineup for the month. So if you get booked by River City, you'll get booked. Okay, so first show is going to be First Coast Comedy. All right, and then you're gonna do the Comedy Zone the following week, and then you're gonna do Blue Jay the following week, and then you're gonna do this 4th room that we'll be announcing soon the following week. And so if you get booked with us, you're doing a small run throughout the month. And of course, if a comic can't make one of those dates, we'll swap somebody out. But the goal is to be able to give comics opportunities to work together, develop, and get lots of different looks at different rooms. and hopefully every one of them be a sold out room. I think the smallest room we're going to be doing sells out with like 50.
Wow.
So, and we've got a good track record of selling shows out if we can keep going. So we've sold out Ink Factory, which sells out with 40 people. We did that initially to start things off, and we were selling it out and then having to do a double header. So we'd sell it out twice in a night. We did that for a while, and then took a break from that. But before that, we did a place called T Dubs. That was long before me, Alex, and Mikey were even working together. It was just something I put together, and we sold it out twice in a night. We're like, oh, all right, that's cool. And then it's just continued to grow, and then Blue Jay's been real successful. So if we can keep that momentum going, then I don't know. Our goal is for even just road comics to be like, hey, you should see if you can get on that gig. You know, we're starting to get those type of emails and messages from people that are coming through like, hey, I talked to Anna Lepley has been on the show, and I love Anna. Like, we do all kinds of cool stuff. Anna's taken me on the road, and she, everywhere she goes, she tells people like, hey, you got to check out Blue Jay, you got to check out Voussoir and those type of things. So we want it to be like we're comics are reaching out to us because they know that we're going to treat them right. The show's going to be good. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there, but it's all about putting marketing in and us sharing the responsibility so that no one person has to, like, for what you're doing, you're taking it all on yourself, you know, and doing it all,
That is
which I
true.
can't imagine having to do all that, you know?
It's rough. I mean, but it's like, it teaches you like, from like being the dishwasher to the CEO or the janitor to the CEO. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I got teach myself everything. And like this
Mm-hmm.
past month, I was like, or this past fest, I was like, DJing, hosting, selling merch, all in one station, and
Yeah.
taking photos. I was like, gosh, I sure need a team. Like, like to makes a dream work. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, can I trust like a volunteers or interns and
Mm-hmm.
to represent my brand better, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if I but like Daytona, it's like it's like hit or miss when it comes to like stage hands, but like Pueblo
Mm-hmm.
is different. Like all the musicians, they pitch in and they help me out big time, so
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Many hands makes light work. But there's some really great comics down where you're at. Like Roy Shepard has been absolutely murdering it. You know, he's going to be on the next Blue Jay show. That guy's hilarious, and he's grinding. You know, he's
Yeah,
working hard. You know, and you got Rob Ford putting on all kind of shows. He's doing like the weenie roast and stuff like that. And I mean, there's some talent down there, and there's some people that I see working really hard.
yeah.
Uh, so I'm sure if you powwowed up with some of those guys and said, "Hey, what do you think? Can we get together and take it to the next level?" You might get some solid help.
Indeed, for sure. I'll definitely reach out to them and like they have like families and stuff, and I'm like Rob and it's easy for like Rob, Roy, Tim, and well, Tim's married and has a kid, but like
Hmm.
Rob and Roy's like they're like single and they can fly everywhere and do shows,
Hmm.
New York and or Austin, whatever. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, maybe I should click up. I don't know. We talked from the beginning, but
Hmm.
they were like, I don't know, like Rob texts and drives and scares me, and like I'm like, and then he wouldn't trust me on driving, so I'm like,
Uh,
I
that's a
know
deal breaker for me. I get car sick, so I gotta drive.
oh yeah,
Like even the other day when we went down to Mad Caps, I was like, I'll pick everybody up and I'll drop everybody off. You guys can drink and have fun, but I gotta drive. Otherwise, I'll get car sick. So if it's a
me
road trip, I'm driving.
for sure. I prefer to drive too, and I'm like, I'm gonna make sure everyone's safe, and
Yeah,
we and but
I can't sleep if somebody else is driving. I can't relax. It's like I'll be thinking about us going off the road, and I'll wake up. Like, yeah, all right, we're good. Can't relax. It's
for
terrible.
sure.
I'd rather
Indeed.
just pound sunflower seeds and 5 hour energies till we get there.
Hell yeah,
Because I know that like if I'm tired, I'll pull over. I don't trust you while I'm sleeping.
right.
So
It's and plus you gotta deal with Florida drivers, and I get all my cuss words out by the time I get to the venue, so I don't cuss on stage. So
is that how you do it?
yeah.
Yeah. When I bring you up, I always tell people you're the filthiest clean comic I've ever
Indeed.
seen. You definitely managed to handle some pretty rough topics without using profanity.
Indeed. It's a gift, I guess.
Yeah, it takes a lot of thought, to write without. The temptation for me is if a joke isn't quite hitting, or like even off the premise, if I feel like the audience is pulled back, like I want to punch up the punchline with some profanity, like I fucking know what I mean,
Yeah.
like I feel like it's like adding a little seasoning to a steak. But the goal, obviously, is to use less and less of that.
Indeed. We were
It's
talking about
impressive.
the Riot guys, and I'm like, I remembered interviewing them on this show like during the pandemic years because I was gonna go nuts. Like I need to talk to some comics while we're
Mm-hmm.
locked down,
You
and
had
then
him on this show.
yeah,
Nice.
because I was watching Breaking Down bits. I'm like, I gotta
Mhm.
have these guys on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very cool. Who did you have on? Both of Drew and Brian?
yep, both at the same time. It's
Very cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Drew's the reason I'm in comedy. Did you know that?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, so I've known Drew, I don't know, 10, probably 15 years now at this point. And when we first met, neither one of us were in stand up, but we always would hang out and just laugh nonstop, you know. And that Drew actually used to work for my ex wife. And it was funny because she'd come home from work and he'd be at the house and she's like, can't get away from this guy, you know. And like we were constantly we just hit it off immediately. We're always clowning and goofing around and stuff. And then my dad was a comedian and a pretty good one, and Drew knew that, and so we always would talk about comedy and all that kind of stuff. And then even before either one of us ever got on stage, be like running ideas past each other, like, hey, what do you think about this, you know? But I was too scared to do it. Then I moved back to Florida, and Drew started doing stand up, and I was like, holy shit, dude, you're doing it. And we'd be talking about it, like, how is it, man? What's it like? How scary is it to walk on stage, dude? Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing it. And I was like kind of living vicariously through him, like, just, dude, that's so cool. And he kept getting better and better and better. And then he moved. He was in Nashville. He was working all the Nashville rooms, and then came back to Houston. Him and Brian started the Riot. Fast forward years, he came to Florida. We were filming a couple of projects, and he basically talked me into getting on stage. And I did Eclipse, some other room. I can't remember even what it was. And then I did the original CBD, not Kava, but the CBD one. I met you there, actually, I think. I don't know if
Yeah.
I met you there or I remember seeing you there a lot. But anyway, I did those three rooms, like boom, 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 back to back, in like 2 nights in a row or whatever. And I was like, dude, this comedy stuff is so fun. That was it. It was over with from there. But yeah, that's I owe it to Drew. He talked me into getting on stage.
He's a man for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I remember you were part of my comedy special, and like a Voussoir performance was on my comedy special, and
Mm-hmm.
my Facebook and I think my Instagram photos from Voussoir too, because like
Mm-hmm.
Emery shot it. I'm like, that is one hell of a photo. I'm gonna get that on all my socials.
Yeah, I think it's still on there. I think it's still your Instagram handle is you at Boussoir. That
Yeah,
stage is so cool, man. It's such a huge stage. It's like it really is and the room is huge too. Man, that thing, that place. If there's not many people there, it feels like a ghost town because the room is so big. But thankfully, we've had pretty good crowds for. Uh, I mean, for an open mic, it does really well. We'll have like 40, 50 people in there, sitting at a table with a drink, just watching comedy, which is so great. You know, we had a little bit of a dip throughout the summer, and I was kind of wondering, like, did the has that season passed? Is it fading? Is it not? You know, because every room goes through like ups and downs. You know,
yeah.
and I was talking to the guys. I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like, you know, is it over? Did the rain at the top? Is it over? And then Alex was like, dude, couple off nights, man, relax. And then he was right because we're right back up on top. Like the last few weeks have been like incredible, just packed
Yeah.
houses, super fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. The Nog was the same way. I'm like, when I stepped away for like 5 months and I just went back, just to check it out. It was just like it was like four comics that we were performing in front of, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, now that I'm back and I came back for my fest, and like, can you be our DJ from here on out? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sure. And
That's cool.
so I'm closing out the mic now, but I'm spamming all the Facebook groups, and I'm like, I don't care if Facebook bans me, but
Yeah.
I got to promote the show, and
Yeah. I
so
do a
people,
lot on Instagram. I do the little show flyer and tag everybody. And here's my strategy. Here's what's been working. So I'll tag the first post. I tag all the comics, and then whatever comic reshares it first, I'll reshare that. But then I'll just tag local businesses. I'll tag just friends, people. Like I'll go through the alphabet and go at Q, and then I'll just tag a bunch of Q's and at W or however the keyboard works. What's the next? Yeah, QW. And I just limit it out and then I post it again. And then if another comic reshares it, I'll do it again. So what happens is you have all the comics that are sharing it and then I'm resharing it, tagging just regular people. And so it's popping up in their feed and they're like, oh, and sometimes I'll put a little thing and they're like, share this with somebody who needs to laugh or whatever. And so I want the community to start sharing it so that it's not just coming from me. It's like, oh, you know, Mark's going. Oh, cool. Well, maybe I'll go too, and it just like gets that buzz going in the community. And that way they're kind of spamming and the responsibilities on everybody. And I think Instagram rewards that when like multiple accounts in a certain area are all sending something out. I think they view that a little differently than just me just hammering it away. So, and that seems to be doing pretty well. And unless I make a comment on some post that's too conservative or something, then Instagram throttles me back and I don't get any reach. But I have to deal with that every now and
Indeed, that marketing background is pretty good.
then. Yeah, hey, it's a lot of fun.
For sure. So
Mhm.
we touched base on like all the shows that you ran in your Jacksonville Beach comic, and
Mhm.
so you also co-host a podcast called Alex and Scott Show.
Yeah.
And so, how was that podcast born?
Yeah, that was so. I've been wanting to do a podcast just like every other comedian on earth. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, do we really need another one of these? But and Alex is kind of the same thing, and he actually had started one with a friend of his that moved to New York, and I don't even think they ever really recorded an episode. I think they talked about it, bought some equipment, and never did anything.
Mhm.
Um, but Alex only lives a few minutes away from me, and it happens a lot. We'll be over here having some drinks, talking shit, and just hanging out. And every time I hang out with Alex, no matter what, uh, it turns into an hour or two of just talking about all kind of stuff, and not just comedy, but life or whatever. And interesting that about Alex is like he's playfully argumentative.
Yeah.
Like so, like I'll say something, he goes, yes and no, but, and then he'll like give me the counter argument to it, and I like that. I like it when somebody can just kind of like have like a discussion where like maybe we don't see eye to eye, but we'll get there. And so anyway, just because we're constantly talking shit, I was like, we should just hit record and just do what we always do, just hit record, and let's let and but we talked about the like consistency is so important, and so many podcasts die because life happens and it's hard to keep recording and it's hard to keep meeting up. But I take my kids to dinner every Wednesday night. It's on the calendar. It happens every Wednesday night, and I drive right past his house every Wednesday night. And my wife and I, we own a small a beer and wine bar, and so she usually works on Wednesday nights, or she'll go out with her girlfriends or do whatever. So either she's working at the bar or she's doing her thing because I'm already out, and so it doesn't interrupt her. It works with his schedule and my schedule, so we kind of had the hardest things nailed down where the consistency was there. It's like, all right, let's do it. We recorded a couple episodes, and I think Alex was kind of like, okay, this is fun, whatever. And then I designed the branding behind it and did like a little stupid intro, and then I sent it to him. He's like, oh, dude, this is like a real. I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, and then all of a sudden he got real excited. So like, all right, let's take it serious. Let's start doing this thing and cut up some clips and start promoting it. And so that's basically it. But I think we just did our 10th. I just uploaded our 10th episode last night. So I think most podcasts die within 6 episodes because people realize that it's difficult or nobody's listening. Like nobody's listening to ours. Like,
Yeah.
it's like no, um, but that's not why we're doing it. We're like, look, it'll help us come up with premises. It'll help us hash out whatever talking points, and it'll give us something. Maybe something funny happens, and we get a clip that we can post that's not crowd work or burning material or whatever. So anyway, that's the long version of how that started.
Hell yeah. I feel you on that one. Like that's why I kept my setup simple. I have a webcam,
Hmm.
headphones, laptop,
Hmm.
internet connection, and
Yeah.
it's like being a journalist, I was tired of writing, editing, and publishing, and
Hmm.
so I'm just gonna cut all that out. I'm just
Hmm.
gonna live stream it, and here
Yeah.
it is. It's in the
Yeah.
raw. There we
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
That's super cool. And then yeah, when it's done, you just like for us, that's the same thing. You just cut the ends off and then put a little branding on there, upload it. Um, we upload it to Buzzsprout. I don't know if do you host your podcast anywhere other than YouTube? Do you have it on like
Yep.
Spotify or anything?
Nope. I'm Joe Rogan YouTube exclusive. Like how he is with Spotify. He's exclusive to Spotify. I'm
Yeah.
exclusive to YouTube,
Okay.
and if I have like 657 subscribers, but like people rarely view my stuff. Like it's a typical podcast. So I'm like,
Yeah.
as long
Yeah.
as it doesn't see it as a goose egg, I'm good. So
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah. It's fine. And then you never know, something pops off later. Like you have somebody on and then they go on to do something great, and then people want to see everything they've done. They start looking it up, and then all of a sudden they see they're on your show, and then that episode pops off. I mean, that happened to Drew. I mean, they had Mark Norman on with breaking down bits, and Drew obviously was like, they were super stoked about it because Mark Norman's such a big deal to them, to comics, but to the casual person, he wasn't necessarily a household name yet. But now look, he just dropped a Netflix special, and he's always on Protect Our Parks on Rogan. And so if you look at the breaking down bits episode plays, like if you go down and look at Mark Norman's, it's always way higher than everybody else's because people are looking for anything else that he's done, and then they find breaking down bits, and so it's exposing their podcast to all kinds of different listeners, which is cool. You never know who's gonna pop off, and that episode might be a top episode for you. You just had Mikey B on. I'm sure it'll happen to him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's pretty good at stand up. So you're pretty good at stand up. Like, you can just, your crowd work is insane. Like,
Thanks, man.
yeah, I enjoy watching you do stand up and like just like riffing off everything. Like, it's rad. It's
It's my
I wish
favorite.
I wish I could do that, but I'm just like, what? I'm just gonna stick to my bits and just like
Stick to the bits. Yeah, there's times like so I was on Blue Jay, and I wanted to try. I did a half hour, and my goal was to do a half hour with zero crowd work. I just wanted it to be just material, and like the entire set, I was fighting it so hard. I was like, because I wanted to just stick to the bits, and I wanted to get I wanted to be able to cut out at least 5 just for bookers and stuff like that. And I was going through all my old sets, like, dude, I can't find any 5-minute stretch where I don't do some sort of crowd work on some level. Like, this is bullshit. It's because I just love doing it so much. Even when I'm in a bit, like, I'll involve the crowd in a bit. If I know where I'm about to go with something, I'm like, you get it, sir, right? I mean, how long have and then I'll incorporate that into the joke, which is fun in a live performance, but bookers don't want to see that, so it's been a struggle.
for sure. But you
But
got
I
the
love
grip
doing
to
it.
gab grip, so you're like the Big J Okerson of Jacksonville Beach. So,
It's a hell of a title. Yeah.
hell yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Like you said, like with Mark Norman blowing up, I'm like, when I put my special out, like Cam Patterson's like
Mhm.
interview had like one of the most views because it tells me like how many views it has. I'm like,
Mhm.
I can't believe people found this secret stamp special. Like,
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
that's super
It's still
cool. So how did
secret.
that work? So you've known Cam a long time, right?
Yeah. Like, I just had him on my the fest last year, and like I had Ariel Isaac Norman and stuff, and like
Mm-hmm.
just to see him blow up, like it was just awesome. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
deserves all his flowers, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm glad I caught him when I did, because like now he's more expensive,
Mhm.
has an agent and all that stuff. I'm like,
Oh yeah, good for
yeah,
him. Well, Bobby Brown, he's out there. He was just on Kill Tony last night. Yeah, well,
yeah,
I
I
guess it
saw
was
that.
3 weeks ago. They just aired it. I watched it this morning. I'm so proud of him. It's like, I was telling my wife this morning. I was like, it's so cool to see people that have, we know him from Voussoir, or like, Bobby's been pretty regular on the Comedy Zone shows. We had him on Blue Jay a couple times. Obviously, an insane talent, and then all of a sudden, boom, there he is. And it's funny to see one of your own, like a guy that you give shit to, fucking around, and the next thing you know, it's like, this dude, look at him, he's out there doing it. It's inspiring. It makes you, kind of lights a fire under my ass. Like, all right, what do I need to do? If this guy can do it, then I can do it. Like, we run in the same circles. So
Heck yeah,
it's cool to see. I love that.
most definitely. And like I'm like I'm planning on going on tour in February, and like I'm gonna do the Bible Belt. So
Mm-hmm.
and probably take a comic with me, because I went on tour once by myself, and it was
Mm-hmm.
miserable. I need a buddy. And so because it's
how
so
do you how do you go
lonely on
about
the road, like driving this.
how do you go about lining
Oh,
that out? How do you book those that far out? You just
oh,
call venues and say, I'm on the road. I'll be coming through your town this date.
yeah, I make sure it's like 6 to 8 weeks in advance. That way they have time to promote it and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
I talked to like, I got lucky. Like, everything lined up back to back to back, and for like 10 days straight, 14 days, like 14 performances.
Mm-hmm.
And I did Christina Schreiber's Old Dreams, and they gave me
Mm-hmm.
like, it was like an open mic, but she gave me a feature spot, so she gave me extra
Mm-hmm.
time. So
Okay.
that worked out. And then I went all the way up to like Savannah. I did Justice Pub. They gave
Mm-hmm.
me a feature spot too. Of course, none of it paid, and they didn't turn off the
Mm-hmm.
TVs. And it was like everything that I ever wanted out of like stand up was
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, some of the TVs weren't turned off. Some people gave me 3 minutes. Some people gave me 10. I took $400 on the road with me and came back home with $40, and like it was everything that I ever wanted. out of a tour was perfect. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've wanted to do something like that, but I mean, the idea of like getting a hold of venues and getting it booked out and seeing, like, I don't know, like I like your idea of just taking somebody else out there with you on the road, like that way you could share all those stories. I kind of did it by proxy this summer because on I wasn't on tour at all, but I had a client that was flying me all over to do video projects, and I took Drew with me. And so Drew and actually I took Christian Blaker first. He went to Phoenix, Arizona, and we went out and did some mics there. We went to one and we showed up and it was a music open mic. I'm like, oh, dude, we took an Uber all the way over here. It's freaking, this guy's playing songs and nobody's expecting comedy. And I pulled the host aside. I was like, hey, do you ever have comedians? And he's like, we have in the past, but they weren't funny. I was like, well, we're a couple of comedians. We just happen to be in town. Do you mind? And he was like, I don't care. Fuck it. Whatever. He kind of had that attitude. and so I was like, Christian, I'm doing it. He's like, don't call me up. I don't want to do it. He's like, we're doing it. So I got up and I did like 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. And then I was like, coming to the stage, this next comic is hilarious, all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. He's like, you fucking, I hate you. And then he went up and ate a big dick. It was hilarious. But so we did, Phoenix, and then Drew met up with me for the next one. So we did, a bunch of rooms in Kansas City. So much fun. That was super fun. A couple nights we were there. We did Kansas City. We did Cleveland, Ohio. Charlotte, North Carolina. That was fun. We were in Charlotte and at this mic where you have to really sign up early, blah, blah, blah. Well, through a friend, I was introduced to a comic there, and that guy vouched for us, and we were able to get up. And while we were standing there, Anthony Tran from Atlanta walked in. I was like, he goes, are you from Jacksonville? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I did Voussoir. I'm like, holy shit, Anthony, what's up, man? So it was funny for like, Drew's from New York, I'm from Florida, Anthony's from North Carolina, or from Atlanta, and we were all in Charlotte, like at this random mic. And so like stuff like that is so much fun, to be able to go up, do some time, and then have a beer and laugh and talk about just bombing stories or killing stories, that kind of thing. So yeah, but I'd like to do like a run. I just don't know how to organize it. I'm not an organized guy. I'm not my wife helps me so much with my calendar. Like I always have to run things by her to make sure I'm not double booking or fucking something up.
But yeah, dude, you have poker chips at the table. You got 3 rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And so use that to your advantage. Like, hey, if you put me on your show, I'll put you on mine. It's kind of like the buddy system,
Mm.
And,
that's like the exact opposite of how we run the rooms, though.
Oh,
like we have a commitment to not booking on the buddy system. Mm-hmm. Like you're either funny enough or you're not, and if there's my dog. So if we put you on the show, it's because we know that when we hand you a sold out room that you are gonna treat it with respect and professionalism and kill that room. If you happen to have a room of your own or a show of your own and you want to pay it back, then that's fine. But as show bookers, show runners, whatever you want to call it, we definitely feel like the kiss of death for local comedy is helping out the bros, because the bros aren't always the funniest. Yeah, you may have a room, you may book shows, but maybe you're not the funniest. And we just don't want to put that on stage. We want the people that are buying tickets to expect a certain caliber of show, and that's why we've been able to keep selling out, because people know, like, our tickets are $15 for the Blue Jay show, for instance, and it's like, dude, for $15 we're giving you a $25 $30 show. Like Joe Sensabella just blew the top off the place last month. Oh my gosh, dude, murdered.
That's awesome.
And so that's the kind of stuff that, like, when people leave and they're like, dude, I couldn't breathe, you see people do it like this, you're like, all right, we're showing people that local comedy can be top notch, but anyway. But it is nice to have a guy like Joe on, or Anna on, because they're not only are they really good, but they're doing rooms, like Milk District or Moon Room or whatever. So there's opportunities there to get on their shows, but we also don't expect it back either. Like, book me if you think I'm funny. Mm-hmm. Don't book me because I put you on my show. Like, right. I want to earn it. Nobody gets any better by getting a handout.
True.
And that's just our philosophy. Everybody's different, but
Indeed. But, like, if you're going to their show, like, out of town or setting up a tour, just say like, if you come through, I'll take care of you, like something
Mhm,
like that, you know. But like
mhm.
not like a buddy system, but like saying like, you know, if you need to, if you
Mhm.
need me, I'll be here. Like
Yeah.
I'll help set up a run for you,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, you
Mhm.
know, comics helping comics, but sometimes they need that too. But they got to be funny, like you said, or
Yeah.
else
Gotta be
get out
funny.
of here. You know, it's
Yeah, exactly.
like,
Yeah.
and like I don't know. For mine, I'm like, you know, you know, like I said, like I watch everyone like from a distance. Like
Mhm,
if you're on like constant great shows,
mhm.
then I know that I can rely on you to do like 10
Right.
minutes, right?
Mhm,
And it's like, or like even if like people that you know, but you know, people that gave me a chance, you know, I'm like,
mhm,
all right,
mhm. Yeah,
fine, yeah. But like
yeah.
I'm limiting myself to like 2 shows a month, so that
Mhm.
way I don't overbook Strathfest. So,
Yeah, yeah. So
but
you're booking yourself out. How often are you on stage getting, whether it's mics or getting booked, or how's that look for you?
I just do like now that I'm post Strathfest, both of them. I'm
Mhm,
gonna take it easy if like for the next month. I'm like when like until like January, I'm gonna go full force again.
mhm.
But until then, I'm gonna do like one show, one mic a week, like in one
Yeah.
showcase a month and two festivals a year. And
Mhm,
then, but then until January, and then I'm gonna go back to normal because I promised my mom that I would get back on stage,
mhm.
because she got mad that I was quitting. Because I was taking care of her, you know,
Mhm,
before she passed. So
mhm,
I was like, before she went to the next life, I was like,
mhm,
I'm quitting stand up to take care of you, and then she got pissed.
mm.
And then I'm like, all right, I guess that's a sign that I'm gonna go on stage again. And so,
Yeah,
to honor my mom, like I put her name on the back of the shirts.
very
Uh,
cool.
yep, because
I
like
love that.
yeah, so it's on the new Sweatfest shirt. So if you see like a Sweatfest shirt, you'll see
I
like,
actually did see one the other day. I don't know, was it, I think Roy was maybe wearing one?
oh yeah, yeah, he wore it
Yeah,
on stage. Yeah,
yeah, I was like, "Oh shit, look at that."
yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's my way of honoring my mom. So it's like she lost her
Yeah.
battle with stage four. So I'm like, all right. She told me like just stay tough. Like you got this. Like this is your dream. This is your passion. You put so many people on your fests. You know, like
Mhm.
you were supposed to do scary movie stuff, but it wasn't
Yeah.
meant for you. But now that you did stand up, I got got co-signed by Joe Coy and stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
and I showed her the video. She didn't know who Joe Coy was,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, she goes,
What does that mean you got co-signed? How did that work?
it was by accident. I was like at the Florida Theater, and I was backstage with him. I said, "Hey, you know, you're like one of the few Asian comics that are out here
Mhm,
killing, like selling
mhm,
out arenas. You know,
mhm,
you mean the world to us. Like you've
mhm,
proven that Asians can do it too. You know,
mhm.
there's not
Yeah,
a lot of us out there."
yeah.
And then he grabs my phone, takes a bunch of selfies, switches. I'm like, and he did all the black and white color, everything. I'm
Mhm.
like, holy crap, that was fast. You know,
Yeah.
and then he switches his video. He goes, "What's the next big thing you got going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's on my shirt, Sareth Fest." And he
Mhm.
plugs it, and I'm like,
Nice,
"Holy crap!" 13 seconds of video, and I put it at the end of my best sets ever. And I
mhm.
submitted to festivals. Like it was like 2019, and then
Nice.
I got selected to all these festivals. Pandemic hits, and I'm backed out of like six of them. But I'm
Damn.
like, "Crap!" And then
Cool, so that endorsement really worked, huh?
it did. I was like,
That's cool.
"Holy crap, dude!" And
That's
now
awesome.
like I'm like, now I'm paying it forward with my festivals. Like,
Mhm,
I'm like, I'm putting the best people on. I don't care if they're clean, dirty,
mhm,
like, as long as they're not offensive and cross the line, and
mhm,
then they're respectful to the venue, then
mhm.
like, hell yeah, I'm bringing all my people on. You know,
That's
that's why.
such a cool idea. I've never thought about getting that endorsement from a comic saying, "This is my boy, you gotta put him up." Is that, damn, that's cool. I'm trying to think now, like, who do I know? Like, maybe Drew. I could have Drew give me that, endorsement, or I don't know, Morgan or Anna or somebody who's, doing it on the level bigger than me to say after my submission tape, it's like, hey, this, is that so? He just said, "This is my boy. You got to put him on."
Oh yeah, I'll send you the video, and you're
Hmm.
gonna be like, "Holy crap, that's so sick!" And I'm like, "Dude, you're telling me like I did not?" And then he signed all my stuff, like my shirts, my hats, my lanyards, my record albums. Like
Hmm.
that's all his. You know, like Live from Seattle. And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Holy crap, this is wild!"
that's
Like,
super cool, man. That's so awesome.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
like the third famous person that co-signed me. So I'm like, heck yeah. And I
really.
didn't mean for any of these co-signs to happen. I'm like,
Who are the
oh,
other two? Let me hear the other two.
Clive Barker from
Okay.
Hellraiser and Candyman and stuff.
Hmm.
So he sent out a tweet, and I'm like, holy crap, this is. He goes like, this is my. He goes, Sareth is a gentleman and much loved in my household. I hold him in the highest regard, right?
Mm,
And he tweets it out because my friend tweeted to him to like say like, "What do you think of Sareth?"
mm,
And then he replied with that, and
nice.
I'm like, "Holy crap!" Like, you know, because Stephen King co-signed him to launch
Mm,
his career, and then
wow,
like Clive co-signed me to launch my career, and that's how I kept on getting all those free concerts out in LA. I was like, "This is awesome."
that's really cool.
Yeah, and so I paid it back with like the fest. Like I'm like, all right, since I got into like festivals for free, and I'm paying, you know, I wanted to pay homage to like Clive and Hunter with the
Hmm.
designs because those are my inspirations. And I'm like, since I got into festival concerts for free and festivals and whatnot for free, I'm making my festivals for free. Like
Hmm.
you guys can come in, no submission fee, no admission fee, go have fun. I'm getting taken care of, so I'm like, I'm good. So,
Hmm.
yep.
That's awesome.
And then the third one, this third one that co-signed me was Corey Taylor from Slipknot.
Hmm. Cool.
Yeah, it was nuts, dude. I was like dressed up as Wu Manchu, like on Halloween and stuff, and
Hmm.
horror conventions. And I go to this horror convention in Orlando, Spooky Empire, and you know, I said, "Hey, Mr. Taylor," because I'm really respectful. You know, I'm a horrible, like I'm a dirty comic on stage. You know, I'm a
Hmm.
villain, and then I'm a hero off stage.
Hmm.
And so he goes, "You ain't nothing to fuck with, dude." I'm like, "Holy crap!" And then like I was gonna ask him about so many other things about like, hey, how did you get Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser to be on your music video for Stone Sour? That was like my initial question,
Hmm.
and it's called Snuff, the music video, and so when he said you ain't nothing to fuck with, um, I was like, all right, I'm gonna switch it up now. I'm like, what's your favorite Wu Tang songs? And then he just blurted out all his favorite Wu Tang songs. It was
Nice.
awesome.
So you guys got that common ground you can build on.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So yeah, all these things were accidental. I'm like, I didn't ask for any of this stuff, and I'm like, but the love you make is equal to the love you take. And so like I love comedy and I love putting my people on. And then that was just like the cherry on top. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, maybe comedy is meant for me
Hmm.
and maybe to take care of all my people. That's
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And I'm like, and Smithfest is like a lasting legacy. I mean, you know, everyone just, you know, they take it easy on my wallet because they just want their names on the back of the shirts and just said, just pay me in a shirt. And I'm like, all right, sounds good.
Yeah.
And you know, some people want drinks and you wanted food, so I make sure like you know you're no longer thirsty, you're no longer hungry. You got a shirt on your back, you got money in
Yeah.
your pocket, whatever you need, I'll
Hmm.
take care of you. So
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. And if you're working with the venues too, and you go, hey, look, I'm marketing it. I'm bringing in free live entertainment all night long. Can you cover their bar tab? You know, or
yeah,
can you cover a meal for somebody? You know, that's pretty small potatoes. You know, for like if you're, let's say you're the nog, you know, and you sell food and all that kind of stuff. You factor in your food cost and stuff, and you have 8 comics throughout the night. That's 8 meals. Maybe you're out $150 in food costs. $150 to have live entertainment all night long. You know, there's bands will bill 400 or 500 bucks, $600 a night at a place like Lynch's up here or the Nog down there. And it's like they're accustomed to paying for live entertainment. There's a stigma around stand up though that these comics should be working for free for the opportunity. And there's a little bit of that for sure, but that's open mic. Like when you transition from open mic to ticketed show, okay, well now everybody on that stage is accountable to a certain level of performance.
yeah,
And if you're accountable to that level of performance, then you should get paid. That's like with Blue Jay, you know, like the comics get a bar tab, you know, they get paid at the end of the night. Um, but because of the show, like we're selling it out. So the venue's making money. You know, a band would probably charge 1,000, 1,500, you know, maybe 2 grand. I don't know what a touring band charges to do a night there and sell it out, but it's like I think of it like this: it's like hiring a band, except for each member of the band plays independently one at a time. Right? So you got a 5 piece band. Okay, we got 5 comics on the show. Imagine you hired a band, and the drummer got up and goes, "I'm going to do 10 minutes of drumming," and the guitar player goes, "I'm going to do 15 minutes of guitar." Bass player, you know, like that all night long. It's like taking your band and just spreading it out over the evening. Um, so whatever you would pay a band makes sense to pay a group of comics for that venue.
indeed, 100%. And
And if you put it that way to a venue, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand.
indeed,
You know.
that's the way to go for sure. And so Scott, how long can I keep you? I mean, we're almost done with the interview, but like because I know you got a lot of filming to do.
Mhm.
So how long can I keep
Yeah,
you?
we're good. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, sounds good. Just to make sure. Awesome. But yeah, man, I love chopping it up with you because I'm like I learned so much from you on in right in river and all vice versa. I'm like, heck yeah, this is great.
Oh
So
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
I made sure I put all your social medias and your podcasting on the bottom, so people can just click it right away and just like
Hmm.
sub and subscribe and rate and all that stuff for you.
Awesome. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
indeed. And so for the episode, we're raising funds for the Alzheimer's Foundation.
Mhm.
And so what made you pick the Alzheimer's Foundation to raise funds for?
Yeah. So earlier we were talking about my wife and the clothing lines and stuff like that, and the Alzheimer's stuff is for her parents. She started her first apparel line because she moved back to Florida from Bermuda to help her dad take care of her mom. Her mom had Alzheimer's and eventually passed away of it. And so she is constantly doing fundraisers, golf tournaments, galas, parades, all kinds of different fundraising, a golf tournament, that kind of stuff. Um, and now her dad is diagnosed with it as well. About 3 months after her mom passed away, we started seeing some things in her dad, and we're like, huh. And then shortly after that, he was diagnosed with it as well, and it's progressing, Um, but he's in good spirits. He's super happy all the time. Um, he remembers me most of the time, but sometimes he doesn't. That kind of thing. But it's a disease that's close to us. My grandmother passed away of Alzheimer's. Um, so as often as I can, I try to put that in the forefront because there's, like your mother uh, died of cancer,
Mhm.
which is horrific. I mean, anybody who's dying of any type of disease that is beyond their control is just tragic. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of races or, you don't see the NFL changing their stuff to purple during Alzheimer's month. And unfortunately, Alzheimer's shares that month with Pride, and they got every color in the rainbow. It's like, dude, give us one.
Yeah.
Give us one. Let's get some eyes on this thing over here. Like, super proud, super happy for you. Like, great, buddy. However, people are dying of a disease over here, and we're getting drowned out. There's just not any awareness, and so, um, and again, I'm not shitting on that. I'm just saying it's frustrating when you have an entire month dedicated to something that's got the volume turned up so loud,
Yeah.
and it's centered around pride when we could be centered around saving, and we could be bringing more awareness to that. So for reasons like that, I want to continue to put that on the forefront so people can know about it. There's a lot of stigmas around Alzheimer's, like it's an old person's disease, or um, because people forget and start to lose their countenance. I think family members don't want to talk about it. You take a guy like Lindsay's dad. I mean, he's a 3-star admiral. He was in charge of the entire Navy's budget. Um, I mean, he's a war hero. I mean, he's got medals on medals on medals. Brilliant, strong, courageous man. And in these days, he's been reduced, to needing help for a lot of things. And I think in general, families and friends tend to not talk about it to protect the dignity of that person. And in reality, and I get it, trust me. I mean, I totally get it. But if nobody talks about it, then there's never going to be a cure. There's never going to be any research. There's never going to be any funding. And so I just want to turn the volume up on that as much as possible and try to raise awareness. So that's the deal with that.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, my grandpa passed away of Alzheimer's too, so
Mhm.
like it was like he was in Cambodia and there's like no like way of like raising funds to cure it or
Mhm.
anything out there.
Yeah.
Third world village, third world country. And
Mhm.
so it's like and it was a trip was like he didn't remember anybody except for me. And I haven't
Mhm.
seen him for like a decade. It was
Mhm.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that stuff will work, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's funny how certain memories will start to, with a disease, right? Your neuropathoways are just not connecting. There's plaque on the brain, and certain things are firing, but they're not linking up in the right way. And sometimes he'll be very clear, and then other times is not so clear. And then sometimes he'll be connecting things that aren't necessarily factual, but the memory, for whatever reason, is locked in that way. Like, he's convinced that him and I served together in the Navy, and he met me at a convention, and it's interesting because we'll have dinner, and he's like, "Yeah, do you remember when I met you at that convention and you wanted Lindsay's number?" And I'm like, I don't remember that. I think you're thinking of somebody else, but I'm flattered that whoever this guy was must have made an impact on you. And I tell Lindsay, I must look like a guy he served with, and kudos to that guy because he was impactful enough that something about my look or my demeanor reminds him of this guy. So it's just wild how the disease works.
Yeah.
It's so you can't really put your finger on it. The mind is so incredible. And it's wild.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever need to set up like a booth or something at the festivals, let
Mm-hmm.
me know. And there's no vendor fees at both of them, so just
Mm-hmm.
keep all the money that you raise. So
That'd be awesome.
I
Yeah,
got you. So
that'd be really cool. And my wife she spearheads this stuff. I mean, she, like I said, she does a gala every year that raises money, and she does a parade that works in junction with that. We go all through the city. Everybody's making noise and hoopla and all that kind of stuff. And then recently we just started a golf tournament, and that was pretty successful. And currently, I mean, she's ranked like high up on the list of fundraisers for the country, which is great. And it's like, man, go you, but it's also tragic because we know how much we're raising. And if we're at the top of the list, then that means there's just not enough being raised. There's not enough awareness. There's not enough money. So we need more people to become passionate about it. And like you were affected by it, I was affected by it, she's affected by it. At our bar, we have all these regulars that come in, and when they found out like what we're doing, it's like the stories just go around the bar and like, okay, you were affected, your dad, your uncle, like so many. It's similar to cancer in that we all have a story about being connected to a loved one that's suffered from cancer or passed away, but it pales in comparison to the amount of shelf time it gets. So
big time. And
mm-hmm.
that's why we're superheroes, and so we gotta do the Lord's work when we're out here.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I think we've talked about doing like a fundraising comedy show where everything is Alzheimer's based, but doing it tastefully. Because I hear people do Alzheimer's jokes. I'm like, look, I listen to offensive things or things that I find offensive all the time. I don't ever like, especially with Voussoir, like I tell people like we're not censoring anything. If you get offended, go fuck yourself. I don't care.
Yeah.
But and so I listen to offensive jokes all the time. Sometimes they're about Alzheimer's or whatever, and I just go, all right, well, I see why they made that connection to that writing. But it'd be neat to do a show where Alzheimer's was the focus or the topic, and it's a benefit. And I have material, and I was talking to Lindsay about it that I've written, about her dad, that it's in good taste. It's like one of the premises, like, my father-in-law has Alzheimer's. He can't remember anything. Used to get real frustrated when we'd be eating dinner because he's like, oh, I don't know what I was talking about. So now I just get super high before dinner and I can't remember shit either. So he's like, what were you talking about? Like, I don't know, dude. I can't remember either. Now we have the greatest dinners. And so I thought, like I could work on something like that that's playful, that brings people into the world and lets them know what it's like, but in a way that is tasteful but funny. So I don't know. We'd have to get comics that also share that experience or that passion for raising money for it. So it's a long shot, but who knows? Maybe we'll do something like that someday.
For sure, indeed. I believe in you, and yeah, I did like there's storytelling events in Jacksonville that I love doing, like Babs Labs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I told like my grandpa's Alzheimer's story, and
Mm-hmm.
I flipped into a ghost story, and so it was pretty bonkers. It was a lot of fun, but it's intense. Like some of the storytelling rooms are just really intense. People die, like talk about cancer, AIDS, all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. It's like
Yeah,
it's heavy.
I'm doing one this Friday at First Coast Comedy, and I'm telling a couple stories. But mine are all like about shit in my pants in public or something like that. Like they're like I'm the brunt of the joke the whole time, the whole story. But or like my boat sank, and then that's a whole thing. But I'll probably tell that story. But yeah, I've never thought to involve any of that in a storytelling show. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to. I don't think I have anything scheduled on Friday. I know I have something on Saturday. I'm going up to Jacksonville.
Okay.
But if I'm free, and I'll probably tell you tonight if I know my calendar because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it out.
Yeah.
I'd definitely love to see that because that's pretty neat to like
Mm-hmm.
take your jokes, turn them into stories.
Well,
And
this one, yeah, I've done it one time before, and the thing is, you don't bring any jokes. It's not prepared like material. It's called full disclosure, so it's supposed to be self-deprecating, silly stories. And I did it once before, And I feel like I burned all my good fun stories on the last one, so I'm like really struggling to think about what I'm going to do this one. I have 2 ideas, but it's fun because you just kind of it. Last time I did it, I brought 3 stories, and each one of them were stuff that I've thought about turning into a bit. Like, how can I make this a bit? But I had never really taken it on stage before. So to take those ideas on stage and then just with zero expectation, just tell the story, but do it comedically and see what happens. And it was so much fun because this is at an improv. So you tell your story, and then it like 3 to 5 minute stories, and then a crew of improv actors interview you on your story. Like, oh, you said this. Oh, what do you mean by that? And then they do scenes based on details from your story. So they act out scenes, and it's really funny. So really, the pressure is on them to be funny and entertaining with what you give them. But also, I wanted as a comedian, I wanted to get up and make the whole room laugh. But it was and I just did a little bit of crowd work and riffed and all that kind of stuff, and then told my story. So thankfully, I have the crowd work skill set. So if my story is weak, I can at least punch it up with some crowd work and then move on. But I'm looking forward to Friday. It should be fun.
Heck yeah, dude. I'll definitely check my schedule. I know what I'm gonna do tonight, and you know what I'm gonna do Saturday. So we'll figure it all out. So
Yeah, well, I'll see you tonight at Voussoir.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got so many plans, and I'll tell you after we go off air and stuff. But
Okay.
so we covered all those. You're all about you, and so this is like the next portion is like all the questions I ask all the comics, like
Mm-hmm.
all that I've interviewed through the years. So with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
What inspired me to start it?
Yep, just to perform. Yeah.
To perform. So my dad was a comic and was pretty successful in the late '90s, and it's crazy because it was before anybody was really filming their sets or anything like that. And I think there's one set. If you Google Scott Whatley stand up on YouTube, you can probably see him at the Comedy Zone. It's like a 5 minute clip, but he murders, But he got to the point where he was doing weekends and was getting paid to go do ski resorts and all kind of stuff like that. So he was on the cusp, and had to step away from it. Couldn't quit his career, couldn't leave us kids and that kind of thing. And so I always looked at that growing up, like, man, he's so funny. Because I was when he was ending, like towards the very end of his career as a comic, I was just old enough to start getting into clubs as like a guest. He'd put me on the guest list, and I could ride with his friends and go see him. I watched my dad just freaking murder and full clubs and be like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I want to do this shit, And like we used to go to Gainesville all the time, ride down there and see him and stuff. And so yeah, that always wanted to do that. But then, like I said, I was just chicken shit for way too long, and then Drew tricked me into it. Yeah.
He he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Both your dad and Drew is great.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
Drew got me dirty. He came here. We were supposed to be filming sketches,
uh,
and we filmed for like 2 days. And he's like, "Hey," because he used to have this YouTube show called New to Drew. I don't know if you ever watched it, but it was real funny. People would teach him how to do stuff, and he would just mess it up the whole time, and it was funny. And so he wanted to do an episode where I'd teach him how to surf. And I was like, all right, cool. So we're doing this episode, learning how to surf, and he's wiping out and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, this episode I want to have a twist at the end. I was like, all right, cool. What's that? He's like, this time I'm going to teach you how to do something. I'm like, all right, what is it? He's like, stand-up comedy. I'm like, uh-huh. Like, when are we doing that? He's like, in about 3 hours. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he already had me lined up to go to Eclipse and get on stage there. And because Morgan Gallows used to listen to the show a lot. And so he reached out to her and connected with her, and she told him where all the mics were. And so I guess I owe a little bit to Morgan too. I wouldn't have got on without Morgan telling him where the different mics were. But yeah, so that's what started.
awesome. And if what was it feeling like when you first performed stand up?
What was what?
What was it feeling like when you first performed stand up?
So the very first room I did was Eclipse, and I did that to nobody. It was like me on stage, Drew, three other comedians sitting at tables, not giving a damn, looking at their notes or whatever. And I was like, geez, this is rough, And then we did one other place. I don't remember where it was now. Honestly, I can't remember what the venue was. It was somewhere in Jacksonville. And I got like a couple of chuckles, and I had like my 4 or 5 minutes or whatever, like rough, really rough. And then when I did CBD, I invited all my friends. I was like, hey guys, I'm doing comedy, come see me. And so I brought all these people from the beach out to CBD, and my heart was beating out of my chest. I was so scared, so nervous. I felt like my voice was shaking. I've watched it back, and like I wasn't maybe that visibly nervous. I think I was faking it really well on stage, but I was so fucking scared. But I did okay. And you know what's interesting? One of the jokes that I did my very first time ever doing comedy is still my opener. It's come a long way, but the premise that I did, uh, it's funny. I still do it. Like I did it the other night. Um, like I said, it's come a long way. The bit is totally different now. It's tightened up. It's punched up. I've got all these tags for it. It was like a 30-second or maybe a minute idea. Now it's like a 3 or 4 minute chunk. But so still doing that one from day one years ago. Um, but none of the other stuff. Most of the other stuff I killed all that.
Indeed. Isn't it beautiful how like a joke just like grows out of like, you just beat it to like
Mhm.
coal to diamond or whatever, or
Yeah,
polish the turds. So,
yeah, yeah. There's a comic. His name's Dean Nimnick. Do you know Dean?
yeah.
I remember the very first time I ever did that. After the show, he came up and repeated back to me a couple of like the beats in that joke. And he's like, "That's so funny, dude." And I was like, "What? That's crazy! Like you paid attention to that? Like." But I've loved that joke for a long time.
Indeed. I love it. My glory hole joke is the one I kept the most from my first set ever.
Yeah, I like that one.
Indeed.
What the Ronda Rousey? Is that one?
Yeah. But it
That's a good
changed.
bit.
Thank you. It's like 2.5 minutes long, and I'm like, holy
Yeah.
crap! But like
Hmm.
the first time I ever did it was just horrible. But I'm like,
Hmm.
all right, I gotta make it better. And I
Hmm.
still have my very first clip of my very first set ever,
Yeah.
and I had to like I changed it to Wu Manchu to do it because I was so scared.
Hmm.
Then switched into my Rage Against Machine shirt in the parking lot. Came back in, and the host was like, "Hey, I need that superhero to do 5 more minutes. Where is he?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, dude." And I'm like, he goes, "Are you pulling an Andy Kaufman on me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm his manager."
Yep. That's funny.
Yes, that was my first jump cut cafe story. So
It's funny that you mentioned like having certain outfit that you felt comfortable in. Like when I first started going up, for some reason I always wanted to wear a beanie, like
uh,
a big loose beanie, and I would wear my glasses, and like I would wear long sleeves. I don't know. There was something about like I felt like almost like a character when I was doing that. And it took months after that. And I was like, I'm not. I think it started getting hot. Is what happened. I was like, dude, I'm not wearing this fucking beanie on stage anymore. So if you look back and you see any old clips of me wearing a beanie, that's back when I was felt a little bit uncomfortable on stage. And I just had to kind of put together a persona so that I could kind of walk up and feel like it's okay. It's like I'm this guy. But
indeed,
the hardest thing I don't know if you agree with this, but one of the most challenging things for any young comic is to just be able to feel like themselves on stage. So like dropping the beanie, putting on a t-shirt, like just I know that sounds like a small change to go from a long sleeve to a t-shirt and leaving a beanie. Like you're like whatever. Nobody else probably even noticed, but to me, I felt like I was dropping this like character and just being myself, and that's like a big breakthrough, I think.
indeed. And like Zach Bennett told me, like, don't dress up as a superhero as much, and like go all out.
I
Like
like Zach. Zach, when I did Sareth Fest, because that night was a little rough. Like, I was like, I think it was one of the last comics. And you remember I had like walked off the stage because everybody was on this other side of the room, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to the crowd. And so I walked around and did my thing or whatever. When I was leaving, Zach was like, hey, come here. He's like, hey, bro, that was good shit. I was like, oh man, it felt so good to get a compliment like that from a comic as good as him.
indeed. And like yeah, I'm like, and yeah, I took his advice. I take a lot of comics advice, like for the most part. Like he goes, when I do my sex positions
Hmm.
on stage, he's like, all right, Strath, buffer it up a little bit, don't be too hardcore, like
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
insert some buffers. And I'm like, all right. So I sing 90s tunes in between the buffers that correlate
Hmm.
with the positions.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
good. It kind of makes it approachable.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like if
not
a
as
guy's there, if he's on a date with his girl, like he's laughing, but maybe she can enjoy it too.
yeah, exactly. Got to balance the masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah, and with some of the stuff you say, uh, you would almost out yourself if you laugh too hard.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even supposed to know what that is. Like but if you do it in a way that explains it, so like you make it acceptable for everybody in the room to laugh and not feel like they're outing themselves.
Oh yeah. So I'm
I
glad
did that.
like
I did
oh,
that
go
as a
ahead.
kid. Sorry to cut you. I did that as a kid. My dad was walking me around. We had his friend just bought this new house. It was huge, giant house, and we were walking around. He was like, this is the master bedroom. This is the bathroom. And there was a huge shower. I was probably like 10 or 12 or something. I was, maybe junior high. I don't know. But my dad goes, damn, that's an orgy shower. And I was like, because all the grown-ups looked at me, I was like, I'm not supposed to get that, am I?
Yeah.
But a little bit of that for your audience, like they're probably like, I'm not supposed to get this joke. It's going to make this chick next to me uncomfortable. So like to say it and then like give permission for the laughter by softening it with something. That's a good take.
For sure. And they save all those dirty sex positions now for like the very end. Like
yeah, once you have their loyalty, their buy-in, they're with you.
Yeah, because like I'm like, or else they save it for Daytona. Because like sometimes I'm like, I forgot to write or like write on stage, and I don't have any new jokes, so I just take requests from the comics to scare the audience. And so like,
yeah, oh shit, yeah, and you get quick on your feet with all that.
Yeah, it's like you guys pick the poison, I'll tell the jokes. So it's like,
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, like dude, I've got a pile of these jokes. I'll pull another one out of the bag. Don't worry about it.
And the one that they always request, like out of all of them, is my self-love song that I do, and like and they just like hold their lighters up, they sing along, they finish my lyrics, they just go all out.
I love it. So you have people requesting bits.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Dude, that's a next level, man. Alex, I boost war a couple weeks ago or a month ago or so. He was doing a set and he was doing all new stuff. And there were some regulars there that were like shouting out like his bits. And he's like, it caught him off guard. He's like, you guys are requesting material? Yeah. And he's like, all right. So he did a couple of them. And then I yelled one out, which is one of my favorites that he does. And he like did part of it. And I got up and I was like, give it up for Alex, and then I just started doing his material. And he was like, he looked up and I was killing with his material. I don't recommend doing that. If you're watching this, don't do other comics material, but Alex and I are really good friends. And I did it as a show of respect, and he laughed and he knew I was giving him a hard time. And afterwards he's like, dude, you did that word for word, like the pauses, the timing. I was like, bro, I've seen your set like a million times. Like, yeah, I can do half your act, But he was getting requests for material. I was like, damn, that's rock star shit right there. To get requests for a bit.
It is pretty
that's
rad.
Next level. Yeah.
And I put this like 5-minute thing out from Rain Dogs because it was like one audience member in the audience, and the video is called "Available Upon Request." And so I'm like, all right, there's all these comics in the back. They've heard my jokes a million times, but this one comic or this one fan stayed till like midnight to watch us do stand up.
That's cool.
And I'm like, all right, folks, I don't want. I picked one. I picked Crespa. I picked Rob Ford. I picked Tim Blaylock, Chris Buck. I went around the room. Mikey D, everybody, and he said, all right, do this joke for this guy, do this joke for this guy. And it's so much fun.
And you did their stuff?
Oh, they did. They requested the jokes that I did. Like I came up with.
Awesome.
So, like Winter Storm and Hostess Ding Dong.
Hostess Ding Dong. Where's the cream filling? It's a good one.
It's so dirty, but it's so fun. Like when I recorded my album at the pool hall in South Daytona, like Kevin was like, I'm gonna invite all my buddies from the restaurant I work at, but you gotta promise me you gotta do the Hostess Ding Dong joke. And he goes,
it's mandatory.
Yeah, it's mandatory. Then have you met Ross McCoy?
Sounds kind of familiar. What's he look like?
He runs Shit Sandwich at Bolinbush with Doug McPherson.
Okay.
And it's like he did my festival this year, and he goes, the F word that you use in the Hostess Ding Dong joke, it's still a bad word.
What do you fudge? What do you use?
Felching.
Felching, that's right. Yeah. But that's like using a cuss word in a different language. Like it's offensive to some, but only if you know.
Yeah, I describe it, of course, and then
yeah.
Oh man, that whole weekend was fun. And I said I had to address the elephant in the room on my set, and I scared the audience and with it. I should have saved it for the very end, but I didn't. But I kept it in the middle because it just kept on staying in my brain. I'm like, I gotta get this felching out.
Which is how it works, as a matter of fact.
It's true.
Gotta get it out.
We did storytelling this Saturday night, and my friend from Jacksonville, storyteller Sarah Thompson, didn't know what it was, and she Googled it, on the spot.
Damn.
I know, it's so funny.
Don't do that. I'm not here.
Yeah. It's like me, so I Google it. I'm like, oh, she
Like,
Googled it.
make sure your safe search is on.
Yeah. Good stuff. Awesome.
Mhm.
So, speaking of specials and stuff, what's your favorite specials and comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Um. Well, so growing up, do you remember Sinbad's special
Mhm.
when he was saying, "Drop your butt and run," that's your mama's hand. That shit will always be high on the list. Dave Chappelle's "Killing Them Softly," one of the greatest specials of all time. "Paper Tigers" by Bill Burr, brilliant. Shane Gillis's new special is brilliant. Um, damn, who else? I don't know. I grew up watching Def Comedy Jam, so I love like watching all these old Chris Tucker and some of these guys that were just like so theatrical with the way that they were telling jokes. And those aren't necessarily specials, but geez, I don't know. Let me think. Comedy specials. We were talking about this. It's not even a special, but it's an album. But when Adam Sandler's comedy albums came out with like Fatty McGee and the Goat and all these that shit was so funny and so I don't know, shaping. I was like in junior high and watching that shit or listening to it and laughing real hard. Talked about this on the episode the other day on the Alex and Scott show, but me and my brother and a couple friends were laughing so hard at that Adam Sandler, Fatty McGee, like, oh, I like the stairs. They're fun, that whole thing. And we were laughing so hard. And my stepdad came in. He's like, what are you guys laughing at? And we're like, all right. So we played it for him. He's like, he was dying. He couldn't breathe. He's like, don't let your mom hear this shit. This is too good, that track where the dude's peeing into the stall. You remember that? He's like, he's peeing. He's like, oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, man. It keeps going. It keeps going. And then finally he stops. He's like, whew. And he farts and keeps peeing again. It's like it hits you again. It's so stupid, but so brilliant, Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. I'll just stop there because I could just keep listing shit all day,
well, sure. My favorite track of Adam Sandler is the cock and balls one. You go over there and play with your cock and balls.
I forgot about that. It's so perfect. Oh, damn.
Always gets me every time I hear it. It's like, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I need to dig that up and just listen to it while I'm driving. Break it back out.
Yeah, listen to Piece of Shit Car and everything like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, my gosh. Piece of Shit Car is so good.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. So that was probably the best comedy album ever put out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's no stand up on it.
Mm-mm.
It's just he's crazy. It's like you almost when you listen to that, you go, all right, now I know like when he was doing sketch comedy, how these ideas translate theatrically. And then obviously he's doing like all these characters, all these voices and writing these scripts for this stuff. And it's no wonder, he starts Happy Madison and starts doing all these films. Like his creative juices are just like too big to be limited to a microphone and a stage. And even his act now when he's touring and stuff, he's playing songs and doing all this kind of different stuff. He's more than just stand-up comedy. He's anything comedy related fully.
He's a true Renaissance man for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, switch it up with Uncut Gems. That was pretty good too. I was like, holy
I've
crap.
never seen that. I started watching it and I wasn't sure why. I need to watch it again because I think I got like halfway through the opening credits and maybe got interrupted or something happened. I wasn't able to finish it, but people reference it all the time. I know it's a solid movie where he plays a serious character with a gambling addiction, right?
Yeah, it gets good. Yeah,
Gambling
I
problem.
recommend it
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
for sure. And like Sandler's been on TV and film. We talked about Happy Madison stuff. And what are your favorite sitcom sketch shows and comedy films?
Definitely Seinfeld. Seinfeld all day. And then Chappelle Show. I can turn on any episode of any Chappelle Show anytime and laugh my ass off. I don't care that I've seen it a million times. I'm still gonna love
I
it.
agree, and I still reference Chappelle Show like all the time and
Mm-hmm.
diversify your bonds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like the race draft, it's like
Brilliant.
the Asian delegation chooses the whole Wu-Tang Clan.
It's brilliant. It's so smart. Oh, what's this?
Yeah.
They're trading Condoleezza Rice for, like it's so good, man. When Chappelle puts all that powder on and plays a white guy, it's one of the funniest shit
Indeed.
ever.
most
Mhm.
definitely. And I think sitcoms. I think
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. Yep. And then
Yeah.
favorite comedy films.
Comedy films. Joe Dirt. Joe Dirt's got to be my favorite. Joe Dirt and Happy Gilmore.
Awesome, good
Like,
stuff.
and of course, you got to throw in a Dumb and Dumber. It's hard to get through life without quoting Dumb and Dumber.
Indeed. I always say kick his ass, Seabass, like all the time.
Yeah, you had two pairs of gloves this whole time. Yeah, it's never in our pets' heads are falling off. My wife and I quote Dumb and Dumber a lot.
It's fun. It's fun.
And
Oh
you
man.
can't even make those movies today. You hear people talk about it all the time, like they would never get greenlit. They would be
Mhm.
independent films. There's
Yeah,
no way. You know,
most definitely.
Blazing Saddles.
Oh yeah, Blazing Saddles. Yeah.
That's you got to look back a little further to get to that one. But Blazing, I mean, holy shit, that would
No,
never ever get made, ever.
no way. And I wondered about it, and I kept on putting it in the on the back burner. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna just watch it, and
Mhm.
holy crap, way ahead of its time for sure.
Oh yeah, genius.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And then let's see here if you can go on tour with any comic, locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Ooh, like fantasy world, like pick anybody.
Yep.
Bill Burr
Awesome.
for like nationally, no, like Bill Burr all day long. When I watch Bill Burr on stage, I go, shit, that's what my day sounds like in my head. I don't know how to write that way though. Like that's the type of just anger rants that I go through all day long, and I'm like, he's his outside voice is what my inside voice sounds like. I just can't fit. I can't make it happen on stage. But to work with a guy like Bill Burr would just be out of control. Locally, um, take on the road or get invited on the road with. I mean, I probably want to go with Alex and Mikey. We have so much fun together. I have gone on the road with Anna, and anytime she invites me, I'm going. It's a blast. We've done several shows out of town. Every one of them was an absolute blast. But if it was just going to be me and a couple homies in the car, like traveling or doing whatever, I think it'd be me, Alex, and Mikey. So, and I think it's going to happen. We're going to go to Austin or Houston for at least for the riot, and then maybe slide down to Austin and see Bobby and the guys down there. Well, since
Oh,
it's only 3 hours from Houston, so maybe that dream will come true. But yeah,
it will come true. Just put it out in the universe. Yeah. And man, that's a pretty good lineup you got there. So, yeah. And I love doing Anna. I did Anna's show once. The comedians in drag doing comedy,
Mhm.
and like I had this interesting run in with Violent J from ICP, like in
Mhm.
Jacksonville. Like he
Mhm.
crashed my interview. I was trying to do like a 5 minute interview with a hip hop group from Europe, and
Mhm.
then they were on tour with him and DJ Paul from 36 Mafia, and
Mhm.
they both crashed it on me. You bastards!
Yeah,
Turned into like a 17 minute interview, and
that's
I'm like,
awesome.
yeah, it was nuts. It was bonkers. He asked about hoverboards. I'm like, you can this wait? Like, but since you're here,
Yeah.
let's talk to you. When like so I turned into a geisha, and I was like Anna's first geisha,
Mhm.
and I put like ICP makeup instead of like a geisha's makeup. I
Mhm.
went all out clown makeup,
She's
and
probably like, "What the hell?"
yeah, it's like you painted your nails, you went all out, and everything. It was pretty rad. But yeah, it was fun, and I called myself Violet Ney instead of Violent J. Uh,
Mhm.
and then I was gonna go with Tuck Norris, but it was already taken on Urban Dictionary, so I was
Tuck
like,
Norris. And I've never done her drag show. I've done just stand up shows with her. That's funny because she's like, people think drag's the only thing I do, but I do all these stand up shows, and that's the ones I've done with her. And they're so much fun. But she's constantly trying to get me to do the drag show. I'll get on one eventually. I don't know what I would do. Like I've talked to her about it. Like I'm not sure how I would dress or what material would I do. Like I don't really know. I gotta go. I need to go to one of the shows and just watch it to see. It's like certain guys like Blaker, he was actually looked kind of cute. He did a pretty good
yeah.
job. And then you see a guy like Crespo, and you're like, there's not enough lipstick to put on that pig. There's no way, no way that's gonna ever look good in drag. Which is, I think I'd put myself into that category. I think I could put anything on, and I'm not gonna come anywhere near like looking like a woman. You're gonna be like, that is clearly a man in a so I talked to her about it. I said I would have to treat it like Chris Farley. You know, when Chris Farley and Adam Sandler are dressed up, and he's like, "Oh, look at that, holy cannoli!" And he's like playing like that annoying, out of shape, ugly wife kind of thing. Like, I think that'd be similar to like what I would probably do.
Heck yeah, dude.
I gotta visualize it.
Absolutely. If you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you have to get roasted by?
To get roasted by?
Mhm.
Ooh, I mean, you'd have to get roasted by. Uh, oh shit, what's his name? The roast master.
Jeff Ross.
Jeff Ross, yeah, Jeff Ross. I mean, he's roast master. What's the guy's name? Fuck, he did a roast. It was actually one of the big roasts on TV. I'll think of his name in a minute, but he was absolutely murdered. Who's good at roasting? I'd want to get roasted by legends. I would want to get diced up by somebody really, really good.
Yeah.
Like Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah.
If you could have him roast you, I mean, he's the GOAT. You know who's really good is Adam Ray. Maybe I've never seen him really roast, but his crowd work is insane. Like, you're familiar with comedian Adam Ray?
Is he famous? I don't know.
He's getting there. He's that Tommy Lee docudrama that came out recently. It was on Hulu or HBO Max. He plays Jay Leno in that. I mean, he's on the road. He's a pro. I mean, he's on the cusp or whatever. But yeah, his crowd work is insane. I love watching that guy. Yeah, I don't know.
Some locals or something.
Oh, locals to be roasted by? Shit. Anna roasts me like every week. It's fun. And she usually starts her set by doing three off the top, just roasting me. Yeah, she goes on and on about how I'm gay and all this different stuff. It's hilarious. Like, and I love that dynamic too, because Anna's a little lesbian girl, and I'm like, I look how I look, and so I think people don't expect us to be friends or get along, but we're good comedy friends, and we give each other a lot of shit on stage. Like when she starts hawking all her merch, I call her LGTBQVC, and we just roast each other. So I'd get roasted by Anna. Will Blaylock.
Nice.
I would get roasted by Will. I think he would do a good job.
Indeed. I love when he roasts me too. Like when he's on stage, like since I'm a familiar face in the crowd and I can handle the roast jokes,
yeah,
he chucks one at me. Vince Taylor does the same, and Ken Miller does the same. I'm like, you guys are the best. Like,
yeah. Well, you can see Will's wheels turning before he goes on stage. I haven't seen him out in a long time. When I first started doing stand up, I would see him everywhere. And I saw him on several showcases where, you could see him in the back of the room and he'd be like twisting a dread, just kind of like looking around the room. And then he would get up and just pick everybody in the whole room apart for like 10 minutes. And then he would start his show. And it's like, damn, this guy's good. He's just really back there just writing, just observing and just not holding back. So.
And we're supposed to kick it this Saturday too, and watch the UFC fights.
Oh, really?
Fun, yeah.
Very
if you want, you can join us. If you bring
a
wife. I'm sorry?
Are you going to be doing it up here in Jacksonville?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, give me a shout. Where y'all watching the fights?
At Miller's Ale House. So.
Which one?
Southside.
Southside? Oh, it's not far from me. Like 15, 20 minutes. All right.
So come join us. So.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Yep. Like me, like I used to go with them all the time when I went to Jacksonville all the time. So it was like me and Billy Barnwell and Will. And just watch the fights together. They'd place their bets. I wouldn't. I just ordered some wings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it to bet. I like watching them, but I'm not putting any money on the line. That's for sure.
Hell yeah, dude! And like I was gonna go to see him in Daytona, and because I watched the fights with the Nog boys, like the two Seans, Sean Murphy and Sean Robbins. But since I'm gonna be in Jackson anyways, I'm not gonna drive all the way to Daytona to watch the fights, or else I'd miss the whole thing.
Yeah, just stay up here.
Yeah. But yeah, got a cool thing to happen before that. And so just a handful of more questions, I promise.
All right, yeah, go for it. No, you're good.
Awesome. So let's see here. Where do you see your comedy during the next 5 years?
Ooh. Next 5. There's the realistic view, and then there's like the fantasy world view. I think realistic, I'd like to be within the next 5 years, I'd like to be able to feature with somebody get on with a like a solid comic that is doing clubs and be a feature act with a club comic doing weekends. I think it's a realistic goal. Like I said, I mean, I've got a half hour. It's pretty tight. I'd like to keep tightening that up to the point where I could go and just murder any given weekend. Um, I'd like for the podcast to be funding itself. Um, if 5 years from today, Alex and I had an income from the podcast that would allow us to put everything into comedy, and we were getting to feature for acts and getting invites for bigger shows, I think I'd be happy where that is. The fantasy world is having a series of clips that blow up and having a big enough name that I can sell out my own weekends and bring somebody with me. But if 5 years from now, I would have been in comedy for about 8 years. And if at the end of 8 years, we'll see what it looks like. If it looks anything like that, I'll punt the ball down the field and keep going another 8. But if I'm still where I'm at currently, I'd probably just back off a little bit and just spend more time with family and not do so many nights out. you know.
I feel in that one. That's why my schedule's pretty light, so it's like I gotta spend time with family because family's first
Yeah.
above all else. So
Yeah. But you
yeah,
never know how it goes, man. Like there's a comedian named Mark Smalls, and I've known him for a few years now. I don't know him super well, but we met on a video shoot and did some shows together. And then I didn't really see or talk to him much for a little while, and then I ran back into him like a year after we were doing we did 2 shows here in Jacksonville when he was in town with some of the other guys. And he was like acting real discouraged about comedy. He was asking me how it was going for me, and he was like, "Man, I don't know, over it. It's exhausting." And now he's Bert's feature. I just saw him do 10,000 seats and feature for Bert Kreischer, and they did Madison Square Garden. And you're like, comedy's like this right here. It's not like a just straight, like, you don't start here and then continue to graduate. Like, you could have some awesome opportunity, and then that was just a great weekend. You got to kind of go back and start over again. So as much as I say, like, we'll see where I'm at in 5 years, you can never really give it up. So I think as long as I'm having a good time and growing, I want to constantly be getting better. If I feel like I'm not getting better, then I'll do something else.
for sure. I feel you on that one. And like you said, it's like peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows, and it's just like it's anything in life pretty much. And can't wait to get back to like my normal schedule in January. I'm just like, all right, I don't like 2 more months until 2024, so I'm just gonna be like ham. So
Yeah,
and you're well on your way. Like you're out here, you got a foot in at the comedy zone. So like you're exactly where you need to be when you need to be, and it's gonna get there. So
I love that. I love the Comedy Zone. I've never done it completely sold out, so I'm waiting to have one of those sold out nights there, or get the opportunity, like I said, to feature for somebody in that environment. And that'd be the next thing. I talked to my wife one time. This is like maybe a year ago. We were sitting on the back porch having coffee, and she's like, "What are your goals?" And I was like, "I want to," because at that time Crespo had just opened up for Theo Vaughn at the Florida Theater. I was like, I want to do that before I hang it up, because my dad never got to a theater. He was doing a bunch of clubs and ski resorts and things like that, but he never did a theater. And so I want to go one bigger than my dad did. So if I can do a theater show, it's like, cool. I passed up the old man, like that'd be a cool goal.
Indeed.
Even if it was just 5 hosting, opening up, or just something, I think it'd be incredible.
That's beautiful, man. You're gonna get there. I know it. So yeah, and like, and theaters come in like different sizes, and that's what I found out. And like, because I did a theater in like LA, I did the improv space, which is like an improv space right next to like UCLA almost. It was a small block box theater, but it's still a theater. I'm still counting that,
Oh, of course, yeah. There's one over here at the beach that's 160 seat theater, and I'm like, I want to produce a show in there. I actually have an idea for a show that I want to do in there where we could bring a bunch of cameras in, film it from every angle. I'd like to give 4 comics 15 minutes apiece and do 15-minute sets and do a comedy album and release that as a special, like an hour-long special, and do a comedy album. And I want to call it 15 Minutes of Fame. And yeah, so that's in the hopper. That's something that within the next couple of years, probably produce that show and make it happen.
That's what's up. man, you're making some big moves here, and you're like so humble about it. I'm like, but
It's-
you don't reveal all your tricks and your right away. But you just gotta let it cook for a while until it's ready to shine, and
that's
bring it
it,
to the
man.
front burner. So
Like a duck, feet underwater.
absolutely, 100%. And man, it's like but yeah, like I did the Orlando Improv once or well twice. Once was for Florida's Funniest, but I didn't
Mhm.
advance. But I wanted to tell my
Okay.
glory hole joke on there because I forgot to do it on my first set.
Yeah.
Scared the producer. Like, well, I had to get it out of my system. I wanted to do it on stage. And then the first time I produced a show and I featured for this comic from the Bay Area, but he was a
Mhm.
total jerk at the end. But he didn't want to pay us, so I got
Oh,
my
that's
money. Yeah, so
like, oh, you don't
he's
want to pay up? Well, how them knees looking?
right, exactly. So like the manager, Krista and Ken, the Godfather of Orlando Comedy, was like,
Mhm.
"You need to get your full payment from that dude." I'm like, we'll get it for you," and so they took care of me that way. But
That's good.
I made sure, like, if you're gonna go to Orlando, like either raise funds for nonprofit or
Hmm.
charity and get that involved.
Hmm.
If you can't pull ticket sales,
Hmm.
and we did that for like the side stage for the Fatfish Blue stage, and it
Very
packed
cool.
out.
I need to
Then
talk to you more about doing that. I'd love it because I want to go down to Orlando. I want to do like, but Moon Room and Milk District, they all happen on nights that I run rooms like Voussoir and stuff. So I got to get a guest host, but I really want to come down there and do some of those rooms, and I want to just go check out the improv and see what it takes to get on a show there.
yeah, man. I recommend going there like at least once a month, filling out the
Mhm.
comment card. I'm like, and then right on the back on the comments, it's like one day I hope to perform there. That's
Mhm.
exactly what I did, and
Oh wow,
so
that's
that's
awesome.
why I got picked up there. And like there was like a dumpster fire in the Orlando comedy scene group and Facebook group, and like they always have dumpster fires. And so the guy that wrote say, "Hey, I need someone to be like improv, like you know, he put it lowercase because I was
Mhm.
going to be an improv group." And
Mhm.
then I emailed him. I'm like, "Is it improv the group troop and
Mhm.
or is it the club?" He goes, "It's the club, and nobody's reached out to me in 24 hours except for you."
Wow.
And that's how I got in.
Being available, man. Sometimes it's all you got to do is be available and then show up when it's time.
Yeah, man.
You know,
Like that's part of the like 80% or 90% is showing up.
showing up
And
and
yeah,
showing up prepared. Like pet peeve, man. Even at an open mic, I can't stand when I see a comic do a joke and then go, okay, let me see, what did I want to talk about? And they look at their notes. It's like, dude, you had all day, if not all week, to work out 5 minutes of ideas.
yeah.
Even if it's like, why, what are you doing? Like, why are you, especially at Voussoir? I mean, there's 50, 60, we had 100 people in there one night.
Oh
A
man.
100 people to watch an open mic comedy show. That's like, respect the time, dude. Show up ready.
Yep.
Like,
100%.
this isn't a mic where you're telling jokes at two other comics and you're going to read premises. Like, show up ready to kill,
Yeah.
or at least take a risk on something that you've planned out. Like show up ready. Like,
Indeed. I hate when comics do that. Like just look at the notes. I mean, I get it, it's an open mic, but when they're on a showcase and they look at their mics or their notes, I'm like, this pisses me off. Like I got so irritated by one of the Daytona comics. I'm like, look, you're gonna be a storyteller this year because you're just constantly looking at your notes. You might as
yeah,
well. And
right.
so they
I
go,
mean,
he got mad at me, and I said, and then it
yeah,
turned out to work in his favor because he did a really good story. I'm
yeah.
like,
Well,
until
that's it.
you get off your training wheels, I'll put you
Hmm.
back on the real like the
Right.
stand up showcase.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes I'll write my stuff out and I'll tape it to the stool, but
Yeah,
I go there before the show, like not open mic, the show. Because if I'm doing 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, there is an opportunity for something to happen in the room, do a little bit of crowd work, and then go, okay, where was I? And
yeah,
so I put a beer on the stool, but I get there early and I tape my set list, just the set list to the stool. Um, and if I need to reference it, I go take a sip of a beer. And as I set it down, I'll scan down and be like, okay, Dings and Dongs magazine, I know where I'm at. Boom. And I'll just pick up from there. Um, and for me, it's more of a commitment to the audience that I will be prepared throughout this show. So even in the event that I get derailed or taken off track, I will at least, for the audience sake, I'm ready to come
yeah.
back and get back on track. But that's not like I'm not flipping through the old moleskin going, what did I write down at the coffee shop this morning? Like, there's this, it's not
For
good.
sure. Not good.
And
Yeah,
I'm not on the level, like there's people that are on the level where they're going to do an hour, and then somewhere throughout their hour, they're going to walk over and get their notes and they're going to work on something new because they're on the road. and that's their opportunity, and that's just a different type of level. And whatever idea they bring up is probably going to be pretty well written, pretty polished, So I give grace to that. Like I saw Rocky Dale Davis do that, and he's one of my favorites. I didn't mention him earlier, but I freaking love that dude's comedy.
Hell yeah.
And I saw him, and he did an hour, but like maybe 45, like 38, 45 minutes in or something like that. But he said, he goes, "Hey, I'm going to try some new stuff." And he went over and grabbed his notes, looked at them, set them down, and then he did, 10 or 15 minutes, a new idea, and then brought it all home. But it's like the audience knows, like, this guy's about to work out new stuff, and we get to see it. It's a different look. When you go to open mic and you're like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, it's 5 minutes, dude. You had all week.
Yeah.
Certainly all day. Like, did you not
Yeah.
give this any thought? Anyway, I go on rants all the time, so sorry. Next question.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, I like also to fill out the improv, like
Mhm.
there's a comic on each radio station that's on talk radio,
Mm.
and I booked one each comic from each radio thing show, and
So
so they could,
you stacked your lineup.
yeah.
Smart. Very smart.
And so I was gonna put all Daytona on that main stage, but I'm like, we couldn't even sell out the Fatfish Blue stage, and they just bought the only audience members are their two girlfriends. And I'm
Mhm.
like, and Ken was like, he took a picture of all of us, like in that. I felt so bad,
I
but
did the
yeah,
Fat Fish Blue stage one time. I heard you say it. It didn't click till just now. I did that one night. Isaiah Burns had a Orlando versus Jacksonville contest,
uh,
and I was in Orlando working on a video project, and knew that a bunch of the Jacksonville guys were in town. So we finished up the project, went over to the improv, and I saw Isaiah, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go up?" I'm like, "Sure." And Drew was with me, as a matter of fact. We were both working on that project. And so we went up and did 10 or 15 a piece or whatever. And Rob Snyder was in the main room.
awesome.
So it's pretty cool. And then they ended, and people were coming out of the main room and stopped in the blue room. So it ended up kind of filling back up again. And
Hell yeah,
it's a pretty cool little
you
spot.
can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. But yeah, those are my tricks of the trade when you're like, you're trying to break into a new city. And if you need a road dog, I know you want to drive, I'll show you the way. But I don't think I can ever get on Milk District. I mean, I'm like, I think I'm too dirty for that room. But like,
Oh, really?
yeah. But Moon Room, I can, I'll message Eric because Jimmy moved to Austin, so he's taking over. And I'm in the group chat on Instagram.
Mhm.
So I'll put in a good word for you
Yeah,
whenever you
please
want to
do.
go to. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely. I'm gonna. That's part of the things I'm committing to this next year is getting down to Orlando more, and checking out some of the other scenes and stuff.
Indeed, for sure. Awesome. And so I think four more questions to go. And
All right.
so which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing?
Uh, Probably acting and directing. I've dipped my toe in it a little bit in the acting realm. And then what I do outside of comedy is I'm a director, so I shoot and direct commercials. So it's something I do all the time, and growing in that and doing it more from, like, rather than trying to sell a truck in a car commercial, doing more like actual, just straight up like comedic writing would be fun. And then acting, man, I think it goes hand in hand with comedy, And I had the stupid redneck character that I do for sketches, and I met some guys, and they ended up putting me in a commercial for Bluebird Hard Water, and they put me in hair and makeup for like 3 hours and turned me into this old man, and I had an absolute blast doing it. So I'm looking for any opportunity to do more acting. I think that'd be killer. That's easy money, man. It's so fun.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You do excellent work with your, cinematography. I'm like, you're like pro level. Like, I love your commercials I've seen so far. It's like, uh,
Thanks.
yeah, excellent work. And
Mhm.
the cool thing is, like, you bring like some of the comics on board to be like your actors, and it's just so
Yeah.
neat to see.
Well, it's easy that way. I can book comedians. I know they're going to be funny, and I know they can memorize lines. Like, think about it, all comedy is a comedic monologue that you pass off as being an in the moment idea. And so if you memorize lines and do it in the moment and pass it off like you're thinking of it on the spot, then it's good acting. And I put guys like DeAndre and Crespo and Mikey B and those guys, Dave Koenig, put them in my commercials, and it's me and my idiot friends fucking around for the day, and we get paid for it. It's like,
So,
it's
hell yeah,
perfect.
indeed. That's so rad. And so, what's your favorite joke a comic has written?
Favorite joke a comic has written?
Mhm.
Oh, damn, that's a broad one. Uh, Definitely Bill Burr. I'm trying to think of my favorite joke of his. Damn, put me on the spot with that one because his whole oh my gosh. Damn, I'm drawing a huge blank right now. But he's like when he says he likes to watch his wife watch Oprah and then just look at her when Oprah says something, and he's like, yeah, this. She's interviewing his clam. She's like, oh, she's done this, she's done that, oh, she's this and that, and she got the hardest job in the world. She's a mother. And she's like, he looks over, he's like, really? Hardest job in the world? I thought being a roofer, redheaded in July was pretty tough, but and he's like, any job you could do in your pajamas, not that hard. Oh yeah, they're bending over at the waist to put the DVDs in the DVD player. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. Meanwhile, you got these talks about the coal miners digging down, shaking hands with the devil. I don't know. The whole thing is just fucking absolutely brilliant.
I love your impression of Bill Burr. It's on point.
I freaking love it. Do you watch F is for Family?
I don't have any of the streaming services to save
Oh,
money,
okay.
so
Gotcha. Oh man, it's if you get a chance, it's so good.
I'll
So
borrow a
good.
password or something or a login. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, definitely that whole chunk from Bill Burr is absolute probably the funniest shit ever. And he talks about his dad getting frustrated working on stuff. He's like, I just kind of God, I don't even know why. Most guys would have left by now. Most guys. He talks about his dad's catchphrases.
Indeed, for
Anyway,
sure. Good stuff. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
one of my sets.
Yep.
Um, if people can just completely forget about their day for the 15 or 20 minutes or whatever I'm up there and walk away going, you know what, my cheeks hurt. And for that brief moment in time, like it didn't matter about the mortgage or it didn't matter about, the kid who's getting in trouble or whatever. If you can just be totally present for that window of time and leave with, cheeks and stomach hurting, then I've done my job.
Hell yeah, that's what's up.
So
And let's see here. When's your next shows?
I've got the storytelling show on Friday, and that may be all I've got on the horizon right now. It's funny. Like I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day. Like I've been averaging maybe 2 shows a month that I'm booked on, whether it's Comedy Zone or Disco Witch or wherever. And right now, the only thing I'm actually booked on is this one coming up Friday, which is a really weird feeling for me because I went from strictly like open mics, like just lucky to get on a show, to being booked all the time. And it was kind of like a rocket ship where I was like almost every weekend I was on some sort of showcase somewhere. And just in the last month, it seems like it's slowed down a little bit. And partly that may be because I'm putting so much time and energy into producing our own shows with Blue Jay and the other stuff. But yeah, that's it. So if you're listening, you want to book a guy. I got some time on the old schedule. I've got Jackie Nights is coming up. I'm booked on Jackie Nights down in St. Augustine. Sorry, I forgot about that, Jackie. I don't mean it. Totally overlooked that one. So yeah, I got this one, and then Jackie Nights is coming up. I'll post the flyer to that soon.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, whenever you want to do the festivals, like I know you can make it out to Colorado, but we did Daytona already, and I saw that you can handle Daytona, especially like when Ariel Isaac Norman did her off script and she did the heckle mic. You stood your own. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the heckle mic was fun. That was a lot of fun. I forgot about that part.
Yeah. And then you did 5, and I'm like, yeah, because I can only afford 10 minutes, and because you wanted empanadas. I'm like, yeah, these are all the empanadas I can afford.
Oh, hang on just a second. You leaving? Where are you headed? Huh? Oh, okay. I love you. My wife, she's leaving. She's going to lunch.
That's sweet. That was sweet. And one more to go, and one more question, so you can have lunch with your wife.
She's taking off. She's going off with her friend.
Okay, for sure.
I'm fending. I think I'm gonna eat some leftover cookie cake.
There you go.
real diet food over here.
Indeed. So this is a stand-up speakeasy. This is a secret society of stand-up comics, and so you got to be invited to join the club. So
Hmm.
with that being said, which five comics would you like to see on a future episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy?
Okay. I definitely want to see Roy Shepard. If I name somebody, if somebody you've already had, let me know. But love to see Roy on here. Like to see DeAndre. Uh, Mike B was just on here. Let's bring Alex on. Let's see what Alex has to say. What's that? Roy, DeAndre, Alex. Um, who else? Have you had Anna Lepley on?
She's been requested by CJ Couch, but she's on the road a lot, so I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I'll get her some in the future, but hopefully
Okay.
in due time. I'd love to
Was
interview her
CJ on?
again.
Have you had
Yep,
CJ on?
had CJ
Okay.
on.
Okay, because he was
Yeah.
gonna the next one I was gonna recommend. And okay, so there's a comic. Her name is Katie Schmelter. She is in a very small town in Georgia called Douglas, Georgia. And she doesn't get up much because there's not a lot of mics around. But I'm telling you right now, she's one of the funniest women I've ever seen. And I say funniest women. I know people listening to this go like, well, women are funny too. I'm not putting her into she's just funny. She just happens to be a woman. So before you try to cancel me, I'm not being like that. But she is so fucking funny. And I will go on a little bit of a tangent on that because I know a lot of female comics and I've heard the whole it's male dominated, yada, yada, yada. And my response to that is funny is funny. The audience doesn't actually care. And there just happens to be more men than women. And if you take 100 men that are comics and say how many of these are actually funny, I don't know, maybe five. And in our scene in Jacksonville, we probably have 100 men, maybe more. How many women do we have? A pocket full, like five, six. So what are the odds of one of those five or six women being a murderer? Very slim. Just like if you grabbed a random five men, they're probably not all going to be great.
Right.
So I'll get that off the table. But Katie is absolutely hysterical on any level, period. And I told her, Katie, if you get up on stage any more at all, you're going to have a Netflix special in a year. Like I'll talk to her on the phone and just the way she talks, I'm dying. So you got to have her on. The conversation alone would be absolutely fucking hysterical. I did a show with her in Douglas and there's talks of her being a secret guest spot on a Blue Jay show. So if we can get her down here, get her on stage enough between now and then so she can knock the rust off, she'll kill. So
Hell yeah.
anyway, yeah. So those are my five.
Awesome. Man, I know the feeling with Katie. Like for the longest time before Mad Cats was here, I had to drive an hour to do 5 minutes, so I get
Mm,
it. It's
yeah,
brutal. Yeah, but
yeah. I've told her to start a mic up there. We did a show up there. Actually, it was me, DeAndre, Anna Lepley, Crespo, and her, and we sold 100 seats, and it was it was a banger. It was such a great show, and she murdered. So I want to see her on stage more. She's too talented to not be on stage.
hell yeah, dude. And
Yeah.
what's DeAndre's last name? I don't want to get the wrong person.
DeAndre, I'll just pull it up on the gram real quick. I hate dead air on podcasts, but we'll just see if I can get this real quick.
Oh, I'll help
Deon
you out. Follow Scott
Stringer.
with
Sorry, go ahead.
DeAndre.
DeAndre Stringer.
Cool. Awesome.
That's him
Yeah,
right there. Go follow
sweet.
DeAndre.
Absolutely. And follow Scott on all the social medias and all his podcasts and donate to the Alzheimer's that organization. And so, any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
Hey, first off, thanks for having me on the show. This has been awesome. Yeah, we talked for over 2 hours and it felt like 10 minutes. So that's a good conversation. I appreciate it.
Uh,
To anybody who's watching this, hey, thanks for paying attention for this long. It's one thing to talk for 2 hours. It's another thing to listen to idiots talk for 2 hours. Thanks for your attention. And if you see a local show in your area, go to it. Go watch local comedy. Uh, buy your ticket. Buy an extra drink. Uber home. Support the art form. If you are in the Jacksonville area, look at Blue Jay Listening Room. Look at Comedy Zone, First Coast Comedy. Come check Voussoir. If you're anywhere near Jacksonville, come to Voussoir on a Tuesday night. It's the best free show you'll ever go to. And it's just an open mic. We just have great comics from all over the place and great audience.
Indeed. I couldn't agree more with you on the Voussoir. I think that's where I'm going up tonight. So
Yep. See you
awesome.
tonight, man.
See you tonight, brother man. Awesome. Thanks for being my guest tonight. And for everyone else, thanks for tuning in. And take care of each other. And we'll see you on the next episode of Stand Up Speakeasy.